some federal funds to work on that. All right, being as is 10 o'clock, we are going to call the morning workshop session to order of the Klickitat County Board of County Commissioners. Up first is our Public Works Road Department update. Gordy, take us away.
All right, we have a bid opening today at 1:30, and that's for our liquid asphalt. We'll see how that shakes out. I'm sure we might be the low bidder.
Yeah, I'm afraid we'll be the low bidder.
Because since oil prices have skyrocketed since we started our advertisement, and so we'll see. But I'm sure it's going to be higher than we anticipated, which just means we'll do less work. That's all. So we have one item on the consent agenda, and that's a local agency agreement, and that's for right-of-way, on-call right-of-way acquisition services. And so when we get federal funds, we are not allowed or certified to acquire right-of-way, so that's pretty much what we use this person for. And then we have a pay estimate, Kirby Nagelhout, and that's in the amount of $47,999.69.
How much more do you think we have for Kirby?
At the first of the year, we had probably 200,000, then we have retainage. So we've been chipping away at it. There's still some left until they finish the work. Let's see, construction side, we're getting ready to start, like I mentioned last week, on both the signs and guidepost project and the Roosevelt grade paving project, which is nearly complete. Both of those are nearly complete. And then Courtney Road, which is just getting started. So, and we'll get started after the first of the month, next month. Klickitat Path, we're still moving ahead on that and plan to construct that this summer. Courthouse parking lots, that project is still being developed for advertisement this spring, so we can construct it this summer. And we have a small works guardrail project to repair all the damaged guardrail. We're actually looking at some training that may give us the ability to make those repairs to those guardrail ends and not have to contract this out every year. So that's available. We talked about the bridge call for projects. We got a list from our structural consultant on that bundled project group I talked about last week. So we'll be reviewing that list and seeing if there's a group of projects that make sense to ask for dollars for as well. Let's see, on the maintenance side, our crews are started filling the hole yesterday, and we'll hopefully get back to complete that this week. That's our plan. We'll see how that works out. The East End crew is also sweeping sand off the roads and grading as well. West End crews sweeping sand, grading roads, and they're hauling base course on both Sanborn and Sleepy Hollow Road.
We're doing Sleepy Hollow.
I do have a question on for the West End road crews. I had a call from a citizen, and when you guys went up through Carr Road, and it looked like it needed to been done for years, you guys, I guess, filled in the irrigation ditch with debris, and were you guys planning on coming back through and cleaning that out? Because that's like the actual irrigation company's ditch. Because I know, like when you did, Northwestern Lake Hill, you guys came in with a backhoe and threw everything in the back of the truck and pulled it off. So
yeah, I don't know. This is new to us, so we have to look into it.
Yeah, I just figured you guys would rush. I didn't know if you do try to do it the same day, or like with a bunch of that stuff, you try to fit it in, bring in an excavator.
We try not to put it in the irrigation system.
That would be our first goal.
Yeah, I'll check into that.
Okay. In going through there, it's kind of like their tailwater, so I think it just looks like a little creek stream.
Right. But we're usually pretty careful there, but I'll check into it because we don't have much right of way on Carr Road. Matter of fact, we have very little right of way on Carr Road.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll look into it.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, facility side. So talked about filling the hole and demoing Annex 3. So window covering. So one of the things that to complete being able to shut this room off to outside view from these windows or those We still have the two doors that do not have blinds. So if you're having an executive session, you can pull the blinds down on most of the windows, but the doors don't have anything. So this door actually lends itself, there's a pocket up above the door for a blind. The other door does not and probably shouldn't. So we have some film that we're gonna put on the windows at the big conference room and a couple other locations in health for privacy in those conference rooms. And so we thought we'd just add that back door with some kind of a film to kind of screen it out. So that, because during normal session, there's plenty of windows for people to see in and see what's going on. So it would just provide some privacy on that one and be permanent. That's the only difference.
You'll
But,
still be able to see if there's somebody on the other side of the door, right? Or is it like completely black?
we were thinking about doing some screening and then maybe because we're gonna put the county logo downstairs on the doors, those glass doors, and doing something like that. So there would be some places you could kind of see through, but it'd be kind of an obscured view
Yeah.
to look through the logo in the spots that aren't part of the logo, but you can, yeah.
Yeah, I just don't want to be able to open the door and slide
Yeah,
into
smack
somebody on the
somebody.
back.
Yeah, right, yeah, we still want to have that visibility, yeah, exactly, for safety. So,
All right.
yeah,
Any thoughts? All right.
we'll move forward
Go
with
forth and do
that.
good work.
Yep.
Okay, so we had a long afternoon, morning and afternoon with the HVAC engineer and contractor. We walked through all the locations and talked about solutions for the different areas, because they're all, not all, a lot of them are the same. So they felt probably 10 to 15 locations where we have higher noise. They can fix that by dialing back the CFM on the units, and that should reduce that higher pitched hissing noise. What that means, we'll still get the required airflow, but what it means in the startup, so in the morning after the system's dialed down for the evening, it'll take longer to ramp up and get it up to the temperature. That's all it means. So, and then you'll have less noise in the rooms.
What are the temperature ratings on from high to low on our thermostats? 70, 74, what's that? Do you know what the range is there?
Yeah, so I think I heard them say 68. They weren't sure if it was 68 or 70. And so you have 2 degrees up and 2 degrees down from that set point.
Mhm.
And that's your night, so you just drop it 2 degrees.
Yeah, that's all yeah. So if you go up, you can
Go up
increase.
to 2.
Cause
Yeah.
ours in our office is at the bottom. And it's like this morning, I'm hot as can be in there, so I've got the window propped open, but in the summer, window propped open ain't gonna work out well.
Yeah, that's,
Kinda curious if cutting back the CFS is gonna affect how cold we can get the place in the summer.
your temperature will still be, that's part of the cycle. We don't know, how the building will function in the summer with all the people. I don't, there may be some more adjustments that we have to do after we go through that season as well. Because we have on the southern side of the building, there's a lot of solar gain that occurs. So yeah, we could have some issues.
Little
I think.
greenhouse effect in there.
Yeah, yeah. And, everybody, I have people that would like it colder and hotter already in my office. And that's just an ongoing challenge that we'll face. But thank goodness we do have windows that open, but in the summer that won't really help you. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yep, no, I was just kinda curious what that range was. So.
Yeah, 2 degrees is the amount of adjustment that you
And
get.
it's either 70 or 72, you said, is the middle?
It's either 68 or 70 is the set point. I'll let
okay.
you know for sure. Okay, all right, so there's a few other areas that the equipment is making a lot of noise, and so the engineer was sure that that's not supposed to sound like that in those 2 areas, that we do have another kind of sound coming out of the units. So those are gonna get the manufacturer to look at it, and the equipment in those locations may need to be replaced. And then there's a few areas, I think there's 2. One up in the Mount Hood room, it's the conference room basically straight up above that set of windows right outside the door here, that we're getting some the low vibration, the rumbling, that's from the equipment on the roof. And we have a light structure. A timber structure is considered a light structure, so it doesn't dampen those vibrations very well as a reinforced concrete that's just massive, and stuff doesn't transmit through that structure as well. So they'll look at the equipment on the roof and see if we can provide more shock absorbers to dampen that vibration that's transmitting through the building. And there's one area where the exhaust for the building comes through. That's right above the office. This is on the 3rd floor. The main one of the main DOAS units is on the other side of the room. There's a unit that hangs from the diaphragm on the floor, and then one right outside the door. So they get noise and vibration,
Yes.
and so that's probably the office that's going to have the most challenges. And we may reduce it down, but we may not eliminate it totally. So we'll chip away at it. But fortunately, that's the only location like that. Everything else seems fixable without too much work. So, but I just wanted to let you know, because we'll provide some relief here in a couple weeks. As soon as we get the heating guy back out here to adjust those units, the 10 to 15, that will drastically fix a lot of the issues. So, okay, radio sites.
We went up to Sadis last week, muddy as can be up there. So I'm still trying to it's going to be a challenge getting a geotech up there until it dries out some. But I'm going to try to get them up there as soon as we can, so we can get a geotech so we can refine our estimate a little bit better. I'll be honest, right now, our estimate's sitting about 1.5 to do the whole site. That's today's costs. That's just kind of the baseline, but there'll be some savings. We met with PUD. They also came up. So we had quite a few people up there, and yes, we have now cemented our transformer in place. I mean, that's kind of figuratively speaking, not actually. They would prefer to wait till we build the road up there. And I said, as long as we have the thing, I'd feel more comfortable if we could actually take it. I could touch it, hold on to it.
And hide it in our closet for a while.
But they assured me there's still transformers available. They still have some available as of right now. I mean, outside of the one that we have on call.
But their next delivery is quite a while from here out, right?
December, I think.
Yeah, but they actually have 60 of them, they said. Some of them are spoken for, but
Right.
there's still some available. They do have a few available. And yeah, so they're hard to come by, and it isn't just transformers, it's PVC. The cost of PVC skyrocketed to the point where they're using galvanized conduit.
Really?
It's cheaper.
No.
I can't believe that.
No.
I would prefer PVC myself, but
The plastic's made out of oil, so.
yeah.
How much oil does it take to make Galvi though?
Yeah. Yeah, it has to do with where it's made and that kind of thing too. But so that's kind of where we are. We'll keep chipping away at it.
All right, so we're starting to get notices from other suppliers, asphalt in particular, and material suppliers, rock and asphalt. So we received one letter that told us that we should anticipate cost increases every month. That's what they're predicting, and this month, starting next month, the hot mix will be $14 a ton more. So that's like a 19% increase per ton, which is a lot. And then another company, they had a surcharge on fuel, which wasn't as high. But I think we're going to see those kinds of things throughout the year if we stay where we're at on our current course, which is not great for
No.
accomplishing things.
It's not good for our project either.
Yeah. So we're also in the process of updating our equipment rates for all of our road equipment. So those will be updated this year. EV charging stations out front. So just wanted to have a discussion. So we need to, in order to move forward with those, we have to sign an agreement with the company that would actually collect the money. So we've built the the hardware is in place, and now we're working on the collection of the funds that we will collect potentially if we charge a fee for the use of those. So I have to move forward with the agreement, and then we can develop the fee and how much we charge. I don't, we're not gonna, there aren't enough electric vehicles in town to actually make that pay for itself for all the cost that's been invested so far. But we'll come up with a fee that's reasonable, something that other agencies are charging and is reasonable for our area as well. So, and then we'll have some kind of calculation, but I need to first sign an agreement with the company, and then we'll work on the fee piece.
Are there multiple companies that
No.
that manage it? There's only one, and that's
Yeah.
based on what we install.
What we installed, yeah. So you're stuck with that.
How much is it a
vendor.
month?
It's about $100 a month for their service. Flat rate, yeah. And then whatever you offset that with however many people you charge. So,
I'm in favor of it. I already had one state department say, hey, we parked here and the darn thing wouldn't charge. And when are you gonna turn it on? So.
okay. We'll move forward then.
Yeah, move forward and get me prices.
Okay. All right. So the other piece is the rooms in this building. We've talked about in the past that making those available to outside of the county to the public. But we really haven't developed that too much more. We've gone around and looked and, what's available here in town. There's people that charge deposits and that are refundable. We've done that in the past, but after talking with the treasurer, it probably will cost us more than it's worth doing. So do we charge a nominal fee? Some providers of a facility, the bank, the PUD used to rent their space out, but they don't anymore since COVID started. And so do we develop a nominal fee to do that after hours? I think we have a way to do that for people. We have card keys that we can give out that basically we can turn on and off their access with those cards, whether they're returned or not. And, the may be some cleaning, we're not really sure. Expense associated with the use depends on who uses it. And then there's the technology in the rooms. So I know the room downstairs, we still haven't got that one dialed in yet. So, but there may be or could be questions. So if you provide that technology, the video conferencing piece, and it doesn't work in the evening, that's after hours. So there could be fees associated with that. So I think we have to kind of work through those with IT but when during work days, work hours, they're here, and that's probably not an issue. But in the evenings, it is for IT and potentially Public Works as well. So,
Thoughts?
I would say just generally speaking, that, you know, when that was one of the things that we talked about when we were constructing this building was, I don't know that we really were alluding to the conference rooms upstairs, those, but definitely the big
Yeah.
meeting space downstairs. That was one of the things that we kind of alluded to the community, that that would become available for community to use
Mhm.
after hours. And, you know, I don't think we made any commitment one way or the other, a nominal fee or something, because that doesn't seem unreasonable
Right.
as far as, you know, something, because other people
Yeah.
did that and do
Was
that.
there talk of what kind of community? Does it need to be a group or organization, or could somebody rent it for a birthday party?
Hmm.
I don't worry too much about group or organization, but if somebody rented it for a birthday party with no deposit, you might, it's not like you can blacklist them from using it again
Right.
because you'll never see them again, so.
I don't know. I mean, we kind of have a policy how we use the Pioneer Center, which
Yes.
I would assume we would want to be consistent with that. Where it's typically, yeah, it's groups. It's not, I can't use it for a family reunion, or a birthday party or
Okay.
anything like that. But
We would direct you to the fairgrounds.
there you go.
So like an agency or a nonprofit organization, that kind of a
group.
Well, I
Yes.
know in White Salmon at the Pioneer Center, like, when people are in probate or something and you have to have competing sides and all that, you guys have rented it out for that as well, so,
Hmm.
so that's an option, I think, as well.
I think down there after hours, we have required somebody
A
from the
sponsor.
county, a
Yes.
sponsor
Right.
to be there, because we
Yeah.
don't, here we have people to manage after hours events,
We
down
don't.
there we don't.
Right.
Yeah, that was
So it's-
during hours.
Yeah, so during hours it's much easier to
right,
manage.
Right.
And up here, we do have that after hours capability, so it is possible. So,
Yeah, I mean, for me, as long as it's modeled after the rest of our policies that we have with the, you know, Pioneer Centers, yeah, of course. It's the people's building. It's
Yeah.
dedicated to the people.
so fee or no fee? I guess that's probably the next question.
We charge a fee at the Pioneer Center, don't we?
We charge a
Charge
fee at
nothing.
the Dallasport Community Center,
Yes.
don't
We do, yeah. There's a nominal fee there.
Yes.
And then we do it at the fairgrounds.
Most
Right.
other
But the Pioneer
places.
Center, again, part of that is that you have to have a
A sponsor.
sponsor.
Right,
Yes.
so it's a county.
So it's a county person has to go unlock it.
And it's
You have to
certain
get someone to
level.
donate their time to go do
Right.
that.
Yeah,
So,
yes. Usually in the past, it's been a commissioner.
yeah. Oh, yeah, I've unlocked, and that's when I discovered my ring of hex keys will work for the door. Otherwise, it's a block where the
Keep
the
the door
crash
open.
bar to
Keep the
keep the
door-
door open, because you
Yeah.
can't unlock it without, you have to go up underneath there. And if I forgot it, it's like, ooh, let me look at my truck.
Here,
I
no
have
fee.
one in there.
This'll work.
Fee or no fee?
Not
Depends on
to-
what the fee
yeah,
is. What
yeah.
is the nominal fee for, let's say, the Dallasport Community Center? I don't remember.
25.
Yeah,
If they clean it.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
then there's a fee if we have to
I
clean
was gonna say that shouldn't set anybody out. That's just kind of gets them on the book, and I don't know. I would say fee. If somebody's got a problem with $25,
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, I'm conflicted because
That's where I'm at,
Yeah, I
yeah.
know, but it's like if it's a nonprofit, if it's a community,
or if you're gonna give
partner,
waivers for some and not for
not
others.
for
and-
others, it's
And so I don't know. I guess I'm fine with no fee, and we can reevaluate if need be.
I'd be fine with no fee, but if we have to clean it, you're gonna get charged for that.
yeah, don't leave a mess.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll bring back something then.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
That's it for our list, unless you have something else.
Yes.
You alluded to it, but I assume, actually, although I didn't forward it, but we had 3 complaints about the state of Sleepy Hollow Road.
Yeah.
And what was going on there, and I
We're gonna gravel, there's 3 roads, Sanborn, Sleepy Hollow, I think Lyle Snowed. They
Okay.
just kinda a lot of rock shifting, and there was a timber sale up there.
Oh,
You don't always get the whole picture. And there was a private timber sale up there that did a little bit of damage to our road. So, I mean, they can use the roads, it's just typical, so we'll just put some rock on the
right.
CDL.
Well, I was curious, you know, how much of it, you know, it's March.
Right,
It's always, this is typically when we get complaints
Yes.
of this nature, it's right about now,
Mhm.
as far as, you know, when the frost is coming, although I don't know that we even had frost this
much.
year,
Not
but not
much.
much. But it's always like, you know, yes, the potholes and the mud and stuff, I'm very sympathetic, but sometimes it's just be a little patient. It's hard for us to do anything with those roads during this window of time because things are wet, but I'm glad we're doing what we can.
yeah, we explained that to them, because we'll actually do more damage trying to gravel it
Right.
now with loaded trucks.
Right.
And then once you fix it, it's gonna rain a little bit more and it'll be right back.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll spot in gravel, we won't just,
Right, start at one end and go to
Yeah.
the other. Okay, well, if I'm looking for a field trip, I'll
Oh,
go
good.
take a look at it.
Make
Thank
sure you
you.
have four-wheel drive.
Yeah, I always have four-wheel drive.
I thought about going up Stotts just to see if I could. I don't have anything else. Nope. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right,
Okay.
thank you. Oh, I do
Director,
have one more thing.
okay.
So on the parking lot, I did get a call from constituent Matt Childs asking about another access into the parking lot where we're asking for a vacation of the road. And I don't know if you still have your
Mhm.
sheets that look like this. I'll just I have one copy where I've drawn it all out. So Court Street, Allen Street, Grant, where we're gonna vacate. And we have kind of a one-way in here, and then it's two-way out, where Grant Street used to be. And they're asking for this for the church, that they have another access here, but I don't,
For the, so they'd be going the wrong way on the one-way or
well, yeah,
what?
we'd be dumping them into that wrong way on the one way if they continue to go through. So I'm really not excited about doing something like this. When we had construction, we tried to do one ways because we had a narrow road there.
Mhm.
And I remember being out there pointing at the one-way sign and somebody just blowing right by me. So people, I think, would continue to use that as a cut through, and I don't think we've accomplished
Is there
what
a
we were wanting to.
pro and a con this late in the game? Right now, we have the entrance on the north. If we close off the north and make the entrance on the south, would that change much?
Yeah, I'd have to redo the parking lot, yeah. Yeah, so it would be the design change.
Because I've heard that option from multiple people, because all of our parking is gonna be accessed from this intersection, which puts a lot of traffic on that road and now no traffic on this road.
Yeah.
So
outside of all
I've
of
heard
our
that
area
from
parking.
numerous ones, right?
Yeah.
So.
So, anyway, I'm inclined not to add that.
Well, with it being a one-way, I don't see how you could, because then they'd come through and have to drive all the way around and you have more people driving through your parking lot.
Yeah, I think people would just use it as a shortcut and they drive through the wrong way. That's what I think would happen, just based on what has already occurred as we've gone through construction.
Right, and I would say for me, as sympathetic as I am to the church, their request as far as for the parking lot is not for the church parking. It's to serve the government functions of the county services buildings that are here.
Yeah.
And, you know, great that I mean, it's great on the weekend, they're not being
It's
used
still
for that.
available,
It's,
yeah.
it's available, and it's, you know, it's unfortunate that it's not as convenient because you have to drive around the block to go park, but You know, I got to remember the primary purpose of those parking lots is for folks to access the courthouse and the county services building. That's that's what they're for. You know, just like when we, you know, where this building was, where we had trouble with, you know, the van pools, you know, using up all the parking spaces for folks that were going somewhere else and just parking there. That was all fine until it impacted people couldn't park here to use the courthouse. It's like, that's not what it's for. So again, I'm sympathetic, but again, it's the solution is just drive around the block and you can
Yeah.
park there.
Jeff, Title 12 road standards, are we getting back into the meeting swing of things, or where are we at there?
Where we're at is I have to sit down and have like a week of uninterrupted time to write everything. Yeah, I mean, it's basically.
When is that gonna happen?
Yeah.
Well, no, I got a plan for that. I'm actually gonna take a little time off at the end of May and I'm gonna write it then. You know, I'll just work from home or, you know, just do it and then I'll write it all and then present it back to the group.
Okay.
And most of them are pretty well aware because you know, I touch base with some of them on an everyday because, you know, we work in the same field. So, most of them know that, and I'm gonna put something out in a little bit to the group again to let them know.
When do you think you'll have your write-up for the legal review on road widths to be able to turn in to Lee to put in for that legal request?
I sent it over to David.
Oh, he's already got it. Okay.
Yes, I sent it over to David Thursday evening.
Okay.
Thank you. Director King, do you need either of these gentlemen here for your update? Okay, just wanted to make sure we didn't need to talk about radio stuff. All right,
Should
gentlemen.
have said yeah and then just made him sit in the back of the room all day. So do you still have Matt Child's road thing that he sent the commissioners a while back? I'll get it to you offline. Because we're gonna have you submit that to the prosecutor, so. I don't know that he's submitting anything other than his own legal opinion. It was, but the plan
An
was for you
updated
to
update or the
facilitate,
same?
because I don't know that he will.
Okay.
So I have it here, I'll find it.
As is usual for my department, nothing stays the same for very long. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, like most of the time when I get to start out with the public safety radio system and say that it is performing and functioning normally or mostly normally. Can't do that right now. The microwave interference that we've been experiencing for a while now has continued and has at some times gotten worse. Both our tier 1 and our tier 3 radio system support technicians and engineers are working on that diligently and troubleshooting. It's a complex problem because there are multiple radio frequencies being transmitted. They're coming together in an intermod situation to produce this interference, and it is affecting the microwave between Stacker Butte and Kaiser Ridge, which means at certain times we have to turn off the Kaiser Ridge radio site. Sometimes, like is right now, West Ops is turned off at that site, and the Kaiser Ridge site provides radio service to mainly the Wishram area, but anywhere from Horse Thief Lake to Jekyll's Ranch, that area along Highway 14 is its primary service area. We have experience when we have it off completely that some parts of the eastern side of High Prairie has a compromised radio service for portable coverage as well. So we've been either turning on and off West Ops or the entire site, Law, Fire, all the other ops channels, Page and all. as needed when the interference spikes. So, as I reported to Chairman Anderson, I think twice over the last few weeks, the troubleshooting is creating what is now a significant amount of added costs that weren't budgeted for, can't be planned for. Anytime you have radio interference, it's a time-consuming troubleshooting process. Our tier 1 maintenance providers, actually, and tier 3 did a significant amount of work leading up to last month at no additional charge under our support contracts. But then, as they delve into it deeper and spend more and more time, had to start charging us time and materials. Right now, I'm estimating that we're in the neighborhood of $17,000 to $18,000 to troubleshoot and try and resolve this issue. We're working with the local FM radio broadcasters, which it seems as though that's the issue. We've had one broadcaster that was supposed to be doing some filtering, which is industry standard, as well as an obligation in their contract to have filtering on their transmitters and antenna systems on the way out. At the buildings, because they're tenants in sites up there, and their lease agreements for those sites with the owners say, you're supposed to have your stuff filtered. It wasn't. One of those folks, instead of filtering their equipment, they just pulled it all out and moved it to another location that now we have to find again because it is still causing the same problem. They just moved buildings.
Is there
So
a
I'm getting-
legal remedy to have them billed
So-
for our fees?
Did
That
did
is
the
still to
interference
be-
go away when they turned it off?
To a degree. Like I said, it's more than just one of those transmitters as far as what I'm being told. In our investigation and troubleshooting efforts, it's at least 3 of those transmitters that come together, and one of them at high power, that then cause the intermod that's on our frequency, because it's not even in our frequency band. Each individual FM broadcaster isn't. So they're working through all that. And yes, those avenues of legal action will have to be determined as we get down the road. Right now, I just need to figure out what's causing it and get it to stop so we can get our radio service back. And our tier 3 engineer has contacted the Broadcast Association out of Portland to try and coordinate some of these efforts. We're drafting a letter for the FCC. The FCC, even though, they are technically the enforcers, they have no enforcement capability. So we have to do that function, tell them who's doing what, and then file an official complaint with those. So until we get to that level, at some point, until we, get to a place that we can say, these are the people that are causing the interference, it wouldn't do us any good to complain to the FCC. But yes, all those avenues are in the works.
So how did this, it seems like it's continued to get worse and worse over time.
Yep, and it comes and goes. There's some, it's always there, but the severity of it fluctuates.
And so did anybody make any changes up there that made the,
Not that they're admitting to.
oh,
And we're also now starting to look into the local internet providers, so wireless internet at the Stacker Butte site, which I do know because we had to go rescue the lady and her employee and her dog off of Stacker Butte a couple months ago. Drove up there in a 2-wheel drive dually truck to try and fix some stuff in the snow and got stuck and couldn't get out. So we're gonna reach out to the owner of that service as well, and see if possibly something they did created this intermod situation. Because it has been proven not to be just one transmission, it's multiples. that are mixing to cause the issue. So that's where we are there after a considerable amount of time and energy and again, money. And when it comes time, I'll provide a full report and a supplemental request if it is needed. But for now, the effect to the radio system users, law enforcement, fire, and EMS has been minimal, aside from the annoyance of having key-ups and static on the radio. This week and last week, there was radio traffic missed by the dispatchers when there was an excessive amount of interference. So at that point, I made it clear to our support personnel, we need to escalate this and spend whatever the time and energy it takes to get this figured out before we miss some public safety radio traffic that endangers the public or one of our responders on a call. Any questions? On the maintenance side, put everything on hold because the microwave interference takes priority, as well as most of my lease agreement work. We do have some new leases that need to get drafted and executed, and some current ones that need to get updated and so on. But as you can imagine, my priority is the current interference. The project, as you got an update from Public Works, I also received a letter of intent from the PUD, making it official that they are going to, according to our existing agreement, which drafted and we executed back in 2018, so that we would provide them microwave connectivity for their system as it existed, and our sharing of certain sites and their co-location with us at other sites. We wrapped all that into one agreement, so they pay for our microwave service and their leases at certain sites with us. They want to update that as well, but they also have indicated that they want the option to be co-located at the Sadis Pass site. And according to that agreement, then they have to commit to providing the power service installation. So the letter indicates that they want to co-locate with us in the future, or at least have that option, and that they're going to pay for the power installation at Sadis at an estimated cost of $15,000. So I was glad to get that in an official letter from their new engineering supervisor last week. And I think that will further secure a transformer. I mean, if they're putting it all in on their dime, they're going to save one for themselves, right? So, and it's good that they will, be there with us and have the increase in their radio system coverage, as well as have, that as a priority for power restoration, when it goes out to that location.
I have an off-topic question, kind of. Do you remember the budgeted amount that we did for Sadis this year? Was it 1.6, correct?
The Sadis Pass radio
Yeah.
site budget?
Yeah, that we set aside for it at the board this year.
Yeah, it was like 1.3, I believe, in the, I
Total,
think, Public Works.
total funded set aside, because we had 400 last year, and then 1.2 this year.
There was, that would be a question for Jeff Hunter more precisely. My memory is that they budgeted it for $1.3 million in last year, and then this year, because of the 3% reduction, it was dropped $300,000 to $1 million. That was just the last time I looked at the 306 fund budget. Jeff Hunter would be the one.
I'll look at lunch and see, but because he came back with the 1.5, and I really think we have 1.6 set aside, so that's why I was questioning that.
Mr. Christopher,
Yes,
Yeah, this is Randy Heinzen. I was just looking at the approved budget on the 306, and that is at 1.6.
perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Randy.
So under budget as of now. Jinxed it?
Yeah. But like I said, PUD wants to co-locate there, and under that existing agreement, that's at least a $15,000 savings, so.
Yeah.
We'll take all the good news we can get.
Yeah.
And I continue to provide project updates to Fire District 7 and 5. Fire District 7 Commissioner replied the other day to myself and Jeff Hunter thanking us for the updates as well as all the work on that site because they want to see that done as soon as possible. And they appreciate the priority to have better radio service in that area. 911 call taking, public safety radio dispatching. Call volume report is still not available due to the pending phone system update, which I'll get to more in a minute. Staffing, the emergency staffing condition was officially rescinded by myself week before last, I believe. However, our staffing remains critical. Effectively, we're down 3 communications officers in our schedule. 1 is still in training. 2 dropped out of training, are no longer employed. We had 1 planned medical leave for a week and a half, and then a spontaneous medical leave last week, all of which is causing additional shift overtime for the comms officers, as well as multiple shifts for the chief of operations. And last week there was multiple night shifts. So his ability to get his admin duties has been significantly altered. We are currently advertising for 2 open positions that started last week. As I mentioned before, we have 1 comms officer that's in her 4th month of training, and she's doing very well. And as we have the first review for the 2 full-time positions, we'll also be looking at our part-time, our casual position, which has been open for months, and try to fill that at the same time. If things stay as they are, we have 4 trainers now instead of just 3, which allows us to train multiple people easier. Before, when we had 3 people in training and 3 trainers, that means those 3 trainers are training all the time, every shift. That's not an extra shift. And that wears them out in a hurry. So now we'll have some flexibility to give people a break from not only doing the job, but doing the job and training someone at the same time. Any questions? Under operations and training, like I said before, the 911 phone system update project, once again, unfortunately got delayed. When they got in the middle of doing that update, in the middle of the early hours of the morning, they discovered that one of the server drivers had malfunctioned. They couldn't force it to take the update. So we have to replace that drive in the server. And as you know, availability of all those things. So we've been waiting a few weeks already, and there's no reschedule for that update until we have that new drive, which is why we can't get the data out of the system for the call volumes. And also holding up the text to 911 project until that update is made. The state access system technical audit is in process. However, the chief of operations has canceled part of his vacation because of covering those multiple shifts and not able to complete this audit on time. So we've asked for an extension and hope to have that done and to the state patrol and have that audit meeting on April 6th now instead of tomorrow. We're currently hosting Telecommunicator 1 and Telecommunicator 2 training. Originally, that was designed to get our 3 communications officers in training trained here and avoid the expense of sending them somewhere else. Now there's only 1 on our side. That is a new person in training. However, we've got one of our last trainees is going to be taking that here as well. And then we have a number of people that are coming from other agencies here, and they started that yesterday already, Telecom 1. And that's everything for 911 dispatch. Any questions there?
None here.
So the emergency management program, we continue to, I say we, Frank, at my direction and approval, continues to receive and submit to the state or provide from our own stocks PPE. Just today, he's delivering 2,000 masks to North Shore Medical for public distribution as part of the state's increased effort to get a higher level masks and N95s to the public. They've got enough people still asking for them that they needed more. The Washington State Emergency Management Division has begun the after-action review process for the COVID response, as they are currently scheduled to terminate their Emergency Operations Center activities on July 1st of this year. And I attended that after-action review, that preliminary meeting last week to make sure that small rural counties like ourselves were represented and our challenges during the COVID response and how information did or didn't flow, how logistics were handled, and so on and so forth. And my understanding and belief of the circumstances is that at the highest levels of state government, the State Emergency Operations Center was not being informed, so they couldn't tell us. We had to learn about many, many things on the media releases from the governor's office at the same time as the general public did, and that is what kept not only us but the state EOC from effectively doing their job in this response. And I made that clear both on a survey and during that meeting. Hopefully that message gets through. What effect it'll have, I have no idea, but it needed to be said. Any questions?
No, but I will comment. As far as your last statement, I agree with that. And I know it doesn't give you any comfort, but it was not restricted to only that function. We had the same issues with the State Department of Health and where there just was a lack of communication or at least a willingness to disseminate information down so that everybody could do their job. And hopefully before our next pandemic, we get or frankly, any sort of emergency situation,
That's what
we get that worked out, because that was not a recipe for success. And I think a lot of our difficulties are just a result of that. The unwillingness to share information for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Down to us that actually implement and make decisions locally.
Yes. And that was another point I made in the survey, but also was brought up in the meeting by others. The inability to actually use the incident command system as we all train for and know in incident management teams and unified command. I mean, all the stuff that in this industry, that's, and as, executives, you had the training for and take that. And in all of our policy group meetings, how that works. So at the state level, that failed. The comments were, whether it's the next pandemic, whether it's Cascadia Rising, the seismic activity, earthquake that they expect to happen anytime. If we can't function during a pandemic, which kept all of our technology, communications, systems were still working, if we have a Cascadia subduction zone event of the nature that they are predicting, that will either be seriously compromised or not available, and our response won't work the way it was handled in the COVID response. So hopefully, like I said, people are taking that seriously, and it will get up to the highest levels because the incident command system is in place for a very good reason, and unified command is the rule in a situation like that. And if they choose not to use it for whatever reason, worst of all, politics, shame on them, because everybody, right down to the last man, woman, and child, will suffer because of it. Catastrophic incident is no time to play games. Moving on, outdoor burn ban, county, 3 zones. Just began the conversation with the fire chiefs in all 3 districts, or excuse me, in all 15 districts, 3 county burn ban zones, to see what their recommendations will be. So I'll be coming to you with those in the coming weeks. East County, depending on the conditions, like yesterday, it's nice and rainy. We're not thinking about a burn ban, but all the national fire predictions are out there. Those studies are put out monthly. We're reviewing those, and I'll be bringing you my recommendations as soon as I get them from the chiefs. In East County, it can go either 1st of May, middle of May, depends. And in the past several years, and Zone 2 is typically sometime June 1st, June 15th, up to July 1st, depending on the fire conditions on the ground. And then Zone 3, same thing. The latest I will recommend doing it would be July 1st, but we'll wait to see how the weather progresses. And then the changing of the county code to update that burn ban and make it more, I'll say, clear and reasonable to understand, has not been within my capacity in the last year to get done, and now we're out of time. So I'll continue to work on that as the opportunity presents itself. Under training and exercises, Frank is continuing to conduct the volunteer meetings and trainings. In April, we have one of our volunteers who is career Coast Guard and incident management response team member for hazmat. He's an environmental safety expert. Great resource for us. On April 7th, he's going to put on a training for hazmat response. We've invited all of the fire districts and departments to send one person for space capacity reasons, as well as our DEM volunteers that'll be functioning in the EOC. And then on Saturday the 9th will be a whole day tabletop exercise based around a hazmat incident in our county, which we know can happen because it's happened just across the river, and it did affect us. Mosier train derailment on the weekend of Springfest, and the prevailing winds were not our friend. They pushed all that smoke to the northwest instead of to the east, right over the town of Bingen and White Salmon. Emergency management program grants are as listed. One of the things we've been notified by FEMA under the Small Unmanned Aerial Systems program that we've been trying to get done under the 19 State Homeland Security Program grant. FEMA has changed the rules about purchasing those equipment for UAS under their grants. You can no longer buy anything that is made in China. So that's not necessarily, the wrong decision, but it limits our options, and the best small UAVs in the world are made by China. So we're going to figure that out and order what we can to make that program a success as we develop it. And I'll just jump down to public education information. This morning, Frank was on the 1300 AM Mid-Columbia Today show and putting out the public information about signing up for the emergency notification system ahead of wildfire season specifically, as we use it the most for evacuations for that purpose. Also promoting the need for volunteers in the emergency management program and providing education on personal preparedness. So that's the end of my report.
Questions? No questions here.
Excellent.
Thank you, sir.
Gentlemen. Have a great day.
You as well. All right. Well, we're a little early. Do you gentlemen have anything you'd like to talk about?
Let me look.
We can do it now, we can do it this afternoon. I can give an update. I did go over Wednesday with the Yakima Nation Tribal Housing Authority to discuss. We're still working out the details on the PILT, not the dollars, because that's all set by the funding, the national, it's like the national,
Thank you, Jeff.
tribal housing, it's the housing association. It has written into there what the maximum, which they're offering to pay the maximum payment in lieu of taxes, which is still, we all readily acknowledge is about 20% of the cost to provide the services, but.
So how much of an impact is this going to have on the school? And
Well, and they did, the school superintendent and their facilities director, so came as well. And then also the fire chief and a fire commissioner came over to just, again, there's not a whole lot to talk about the dollars. It was just more, it was as much about, they have two families have moved into the project now, and that they had committed to just keep us in the loop and keep the communication. So this was as much about that as anything, just a chance to meet with their board.
so
Say hi.
how many total kids do they think they're going to have?
They potentially could have, there's 48, there will be 48 housing units there. So they could see an increase of, I think they're projecting upwards of 100 students into the school system, which will be a significant impact because the funding, and I'm kind of out of my lane, but so check my math. The Wishram School District as a small school, so it's not on the normal funding scale. It's a flat where they get so if they get they can have up to 150 students, they get the same allotment. And so until they go over that, they really get no more funding. They're getting more kids with no more funding.
Ooh.
So it's potentially could be a real issue, because if they actually, what they say, if they actually get that many kids, they don't physically have the space,
Yeah.
and they would need additional, if that materializes, then they would be eligible for, if it really hits that level, they would be eligible for additional funding. And then they are in contact with the superintendent of public instruction. They're aware of the situation, and there seems to be some indication there's some dollars could be available to them.
So that's like the biggest development we've had in the county in years and years and years.
Right. So I did, on my way home late in the afternoon, coming back, I had said, I've been, being a former general contractor, I'm very respectful of job sites. And so I have purposely not wandered up through there until I was invited. And so they did, they said if I wanted to stop on my way home. So I did. So I went and toured a couple of the model units that are done, that they don't have people in. It's really nice. They,
Are these just like 3-bedroom ranch, 1,500 square feet?
yeah, they're 3 and 4 bedroom, I think, ones. They're they're nice, they're beautiful units as far as they're really high quality construction as far as the site manager estimated they had probably close to 350,000 per unit into them. So
Now, what's their plan? Are they rehousing their community members that already live in the county, or are they bringing down new community members from other counties? Do we know?
I don't know. It seems like in earlier conversations that they're trying to target folks that are already here, but I don't think it's limited to that. They did kind of indicate they're having some challenges with folks to get people to relocate if they're not here. Just because the community of Wishram, the store is closed now. There really is not a lot of services available. That it's a fairly remote site, especially if you're used to living in the Yakima Valley.
Right. Well, and
And
that's
so-
kind of what I'm trying to figure out. Are they moving them from Georgeville, or are they going to be moving them from White Swan, or what are they trying to?
I don't know. I think they have a
I thought it was supposed to be for some of the fishing.
fishing and the folks in Lyle that they would move because that they had indicated they're hopeful that they'll be able to do some cleanup of stuff out on the peninsula because they will move those people and get them into permanent housing there. But I can't really speak for the tribe, but that's the indication. Because I think they're, it's the folks that are eligible. These are low and very low income folks. That's how they qualify. They do have the two families that have moved in. The one family does have school-age children, and the school that they have begun attending in Wishram. So a couple kids there. Their biggest concern on the part of the tribe was the concern that until the PILT agreement was signed, that we would provide no services. And I said, well, whether it's signed or not, we have because it's not a trust property. It's no different than any other housing project. If you called 911, and the fire department was like, of course, we will respond for and so I think kind of took some of the concern from them away, where they were afraid, well, until we get this hammered out, we have no fire protection, we have no law enforcement, we have nothing, and we have people living there now.
We may or may not have in our control the option to do those bad things.
Right.
But I don't think this board would, so they
No.
might have been overreacting to that
Right.
potential.
Right. So they're citizens. We have to provide services. So, there'll be no difference, but we will get it worked out. And so we're working with the prosecutor's office. They're kind of working out because we had some concerns with some of the language that referred to, there was some inconsistencies in the language in the PILT about tax exempt versus, it's like we didn't really see that it needed to even be addressed in there. The PILT agreement is they're required to make this payment whether they were tax exempt or not. It's not. And so unless that's a requirement from their funders that there was certain language had to be in there, we just kind of wanted it stripped out of there. And so they didn't seem too concerned about it either. It's mostly the lawyers need to work this out.
Side issue that you kind of brought up and brought into my thought process with Lyle Point.
Mhm.
What is that boat ramp there? Do we, as a county, own any property there?
Yeah, we do. Actually, the boat ramp and if you look on which I'm sure Jake is doing right now, the JS map, it'll show the
West side of that field on the.
We had them actually go through and kind of survey that 3 years ago because we wanted to be absolutely sure, but we own county right of way all the way to the river.
Water. See, that's all county right away.
What's
And
that
then
property?
that's county, Klickitat
No,
County.
the next one. over
Oh,
to the
that's
left.
Trina Wheeler's
Yeah, there's private to the west.
to the west.
Yeah, because it's
And then
just,
that's
there's
all
just
the
hardly any parking down there at all.
And then,
other
so
than
then,
along that road out here, that access road.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I think we're kind of, yeah, we only are down inside the, between the bluffs,
yeah,
down in there.
so the stuff to the west of that, is owned, it says Yakima Indian Nation. So does that not make it trust property then? Because then all the others, the rest of it, the lots are Yakima
which one are
Nation
you-
Land Enterprise. Yeah, so this is all Land Enterprise that was bought. And then there was this one that's,
Right, that's probably trust land.
is it trust land? Yeah. Okay,
And then this is
this
the
is our
Trina.
road. Yeah, this is the, yeah. Mhm.
I just know it's on our,
It is on our to do we're looking to do an improvement on that boat ramp.
Right,
and
but it's
parking
like-
lot and,
God, you gotta do something with a parking lot in there if you're
Yeah.
gonna do anything.
yeah.
It is, the boat ramp is primarily used by the tribe, right?
It is now, as far as it used to historically, was heavily used by local
By
folk. That's where
recreation.
everybody put your boat in and water skied out of there. I spent a lot of time there.
Yeah, it's still used. by
Yeah,
locals.
some
So
people use it.
you salmon fishing off Lyle Point right there. It's,
Okay.
Okay.
I haven't
but
spent much
again,
time
it
down there.
comes down into a parking issue. That if you're not first, you may as well be driving somewhere else.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of room.
There's not a lot of room down there.
Okay,
Okay, that's all
Um,
I had on that.
I had a little update after our discussion about what to do about the judges' salaries and how we're gonna go from that. I finally had a chance to talk with Mayor Marla. And she would rather enter into the negotiations sooner rather than later, while she still has her staff there.
Oh, yeah.
I guess, so Pat just took the position as the city administrator, public works director for Goldendale. And that was agreed to last night at the city
Okay.
council meeting. So I'm not saying anything that's not out there.
Okay.
But Marla wants to get moving on this as well. She would like to see the numbers of what the actual costs are, so that we can have the discussion. And then I also spoke with Pat, since he's going up to Goldendale, and I still need to talk to Mayor Mike. But so far, everybody recognizes and realizes that it's gotta be more fair.
Okay.
You have anything? No?
Okay.
All
If,
right.
if not, if you're ready, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I would make a motion for, to recess the meeting for the lunch break. We'll be back at 1:00.
I will
There-
second the motion.
There's a motion and a second to recess until 1 PM. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. See you all soon. Being as it is 1 o'clock, we are going to call the regular business meeting of the Klickitat County Commissioners to order. We are going to open with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You jumped the gun on me.
I did.
All right, let the record show all three commissioners are present.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the business agenda as presented.
Second.
There is a motion and a second to approve the business agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve the commissioner meeting minutes for March 1st, 2022 and March 8th, 2022 as presented.
I would second the motion.
There's a motion and a second to approve March 1st and March 8th minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. With that, we are going to move into citizen comment. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per individual, and the commissioners will be responding at 1:25. So, yes,
I wanted to speak when you get a minute.
you want to speak?
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Before citizen comment?
Yep.
Oh, okay. And what we will do is Commissioner Christopher would like to say something, and then we will, as always, start in the room and move online. Commissioner Christopher.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that Thursday we did have citizen comment on our workshop as well. And I would like to thank the people that commented for the most part on that, is I thought it was a very good dialogue back and forth. It was not mean-spirited. It was very educational. And that's what I believe citizen comment should be all about. So I just wanted to take a minute to thank those people for that.
I thank you very much, Mr. Christopher, and I would second that. Everyone used their best manners. With that, citizen comment, we will first ask in the room. Would you like to provide citizen comment, sir? Please come forward, tell us your name.
I can sit.
Yep.
I'm Brooks Hurd, and we've farmed right at the corner of Stoller Road in Sunnyside in Trout Lake since 1998. And as it turns out, and you might want to remember this, it's a 5-acre piece in the middle of a 20-acre zone. And we bought it because, back in 98, because frankly, I felt it would be, a real valuable property. And Commissioner Saller's been there. I'm not sure Commissioner Henderson has, but nonetheless, I find myself in a bitter, no-fault divorce, not unexpected. But in the process of finding that out, I found out that my now estranged spouse had failed to understand the county's ag permitting requirements. And on the first call to the assessor's office, I was able to determine that our property had in fact been eligible for ag exemption 4 out of 5 acres since 1998, and that she simply didn't understand and didn't pursue it. For last year alone, it was $1,300. I've gotten the material from, this will probably be part of an equity settlement. I've gotten material from Billy Barr and from the treasurer's office. I can track it to the penny back to 2008. After that, it's a little bit of an estimate. On top of that, Commissioner Christopher, you don't know me, but I've been serving this county for a long time. You have the water right from Condit Dam, from Northwestern Lake, because I took action, drove over here on my own and said, this is what you can save out of that. Commissioner Struck actually remembered that, and when you settled with Pacificor, he gave me a phone call. When Dan Haller moved from ecology to Aspect Consulting, I called him within the hour, and I would like to have just a little bit more time. I know I'm out here, but I called him within the hour, and I set up exactly how white salmon's water right issues were solved. I did the strategic thinking. Everyone else got paid. If there's anybody in this county that the county owes, it's me. Now, what am I here for? I'm here to say I have the right to rant. There are 3 of you up there, and you're facing a lawsuit. There need to be 5 that will solve your redistricting problems. It will make your jobs enormously easier because it doesn't mean one party has to go out to risk because you've got a quorum. 2 people can go out. 2 knot-headed politicians are better listeners than 1. And when they come back and report to the other 3, their 3 are better than 2. You will get better decisions. Hire a manager. She's very capable. You're wasting your time signing road contracts. That's what I've got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Hurd, and I would like to say thank you for all of the time and effort you put in on the Klickitat County Water Conservancy Board. You are a founding member, and you put and donated hundreds, if not thousands of hours of your time to Klickitat County. Thank you.
I gotta go. I was gonna make you guys laugh. Dang it, I didn't. Come on, we can laugh here. Everything is gonna be okay.
You got me thinking about the Charter County thing with 5 people, so I'll see what that is.
The thing is it's gonna mean you're gonna have a more diverse board. You might actually have
There
one of them
might
damn
be-
Democrats
Right,
on there.
well, there might be population restrictions, so I have to look.
Thank you, Mr. Hurd.
Thank you.
And now we are going to go online for someone who would like to provide public comment to the Board of County Commissioners. *6, unmute your phone or unmute your Zoom, raise your hand, turn on your video, do something. I know Brooks is a difficult one to follow. Nothing. Huh. I didn't know he was that difficult to follow. Everybody's happy this week. We will go back, huh? Oh, I thought you saw one. Back into the room. Public comment.
Yeah,
Come forward.
okay.
Talk to us. Tell us everything.
Well, I'm not gonna tell you everything. That'd be
In a
lot.
polite and
That'd be a
respectful manner,
lot.
please.
Susan Kelsey Goldendale. I was wondering about, did you resolve the charging stations, the, what are they called down there in the parking lot? The electricity charging stations? I know that the last time I remember, you guys were talking about that they were offline, they're not connected. And so if that is still the case, I was wondering if those spaces could be used until they're connected by maybe hooding them, like, you know, putting something over them, just so that those spaces could be utilized by people until at a time you're going to connect them. That's what I have to say.
That is a wonderful idea.
Put a hood over it.
No, change them to 30-minute parking.
Okay, back online. Thank you, Ms. Kelsey, for your public comment. Is there any public comment from anyone online? Sherry Bosque.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Last week I had asked if each one of you would respond to what you know about the Carriager solar project. I saw something, an ad in the Sentinel newspaper the other week, and then just this last week, my husband and I received 2 postcards, one to each of us, talking about Carriager, a project to be located outside Goldendale. As we know, there's been a lot of talk for over a year now with the community asking for the commissioners, how does this happen? You know, how are you going to use the conditional use permit? And if you knew anything about the solar going outside of Goldendale, and I believe we've been met with, you don't have any plans yet, you know, really nothing, because you have no plans, no application. So since the news has gone out, I'm sure you have had some information given to you regarding this Carriager project. So I'm asking the commissioners to finally come forward with the citizens of Goldendale and Klickitat County in general and let us know what this Carriager project is. I am requesting that you hold the town hall to discuss this Carriager project that is obviously out to the public right now. You have a responsibility, you're public servants. I am asking you to hold a town hall, to be honest, to be transparent, and to talk to the citizens about this solar project. It's only right that you do this. If this solar invasion is to come to Goldendale, the citizens, the people, you have the responsibility to inform people so they can understand what's happening. So I would like to know which one of you do know of the Carriager project, and I would like to know, and I don't want my question, you know, ignored again today. Will you hold a public town hall to discuss this Carriager project with the people of Klickitat County? Because I want to put on record that once one project gets into place, it sets a precedence, and that's when the takeover, the invasion of solar will happen around Goldendale. So who knows about Carriager? Which commissioner knows? Obviously, Dan Christopher must know. He recused himself from discussing this project. And will you have a town hall with the people so we can discuss this with you? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bosque. We will go back into the room. Nope. All right, back online. Public comment. *6. Turn on your video, raise your hand. If not, I'm going to sign some of those permits that he was telling us we didn't have time to do. We don't have any. Huh?
I did quickly look up the Charter County deal. In order to have 5 commissioners, it's 300,000 population or greater.
Yeah.
I knew there was a number there. I just couldn't remember the number size.
All right. Anybody? We will leave it open and get our attention. Until then, I'm going to go through my timesheets. What a day.
Would the commissioners please answer the questions?
If we have no one that would like to provide public comment, I would open that up for my seatmates if either of you would like to say anything. Or if you want to wait till 1:25, you can. Oh, 7211, public comment.
Greg Wagner with Cease. Last week, Mr. Souter said the only way you can hold a town hall if there is an action. And I would like to say that the Bluebird DEIS is an action. So you do have a reason to hold a town hall with the citizens. So I'd like to know, when would you like to have your town hall? May 4th, we had 2 public hearings for the solar moratorium with citizens from Goldendale. Those in favor were the minority as far as wanting to have solar. The majority wanted to have a moratorium. Not one person got out of line. Nobody said anything to anybody. It was a very well-behaved crowd. So there's no excuse that the citizens of Goldendale will act bad at a town hall. And it's rather insulting for your commissioner to even imply that. So there is an action against the county. That is Bluebird. And then a reason to have a town hall. There's no reason not to. You said if there was an action, we'll have a town hall. So let's have you schedule one. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. And I totally forgot to start. All right. Is there anybody else interested in providing public comment? Would either of my seatmates like to respond to anyone?
I can go, or you can go?
I'll go first, I guess. I'll answer as far as to Ms. Bosquet's questions first. Ms. Bosquet, as far as, again, the information, I probably have the same information. I also received the postcard on the Carringer Solar potential project in Klickitat County. That is basically the extent of any specific information I have on that. My understanding is that they have had preliminary meetings with planning staff, which is typical when someone is planning to potentially have a huge project in the county. That would be, I purposefully stay out of those because that is any action that would potentially come before the Board of Commissioners. I don't want to have to recuse myself where I have met with it. I've never met with any executives. I don't even know, I've never met them to my knowledge. I don't even know them. So I know nothing other than what perhaps you know as far as that has been publicly available. As to the question of a town hall around that project, there will be a public meeting. If in fact I would suspect that they will, if they've gone to the effort of sending out postcards to apparently everybody in the whole county, kind of announcing the project that they're planning on doing it. They have not submitted an application yet. I suspect it's probably imminent based on that. When they do, there will be a whole public process that they will go through during the permitting process. So there will, as there has been with others, there will be an opportunity for the public to comment on the specific project once they submit the application. And that is the process that is laid out both in our county ordinances and in the RCWs. As to the Mr. Wagner's comment, responding to my comment, which was about the town halls, in most of those circumstances, there is some action before the board. That I stand by that. As far as, yes, there were two public hearings, public meetings actually those were public hearings on the moratorium. That was the action that was before the board. We were taking public comment on should we maintain the moratorium or should we rescind the moratorium. We took public comment on that. That's what I'm talking about when I say a specific action before the board. An action is not just a controversial thing that's going on in the county. It is there an actual decision point that is before the Board of Commissioners? And yes, I have never, if I have indicated that I was disparaging the people of Goldendale, I certainly never meant that. I have done many, many meetings in Goldendale over my 15-plus year career as a commissioner, and I have found those to all but one to be respectful and everybody follow the rules. I would have every expectation that the next public meeting that we host here in Goldendale, that is my expectation, and I would have no qualms about doing that. But just because you want to have a meeting to talk about a specific topic, that's not an action before the board.
Before Commissioner Christopher responds, we have more people that potentially would like to provide public comment. Is there anybody who is in the room that would like to provide public comment? How about online? I saw we've had a couple people join. Does anybody else want to provide public comment? This is your time. We're all statesmen. We could talk forever. I'm not seeing anyone. Commissioner Christopher.
Yeah, so I guess I'll take them in order. Brooks Herald was talking about increasing the board size from 3 to 5, which is essentially changing it to a charter county. You have population limits. You have to have at least 300,000 people. That's the first step, so we can't do that. Charging stations, I agree with you. I would like to see the sign change from charging station to 30-minute parking only or 1-hour parking only. I've mentioned that a few times. I will continue mentioning it until I either get a yes or a no. And then it will be, because I don't hold grudges. If the board says no to an idea, I drop it and move on. Carriager Solar. I had one meeting with the company way back. I believe it was the morning they were having their open house in Goldendale, whatever, a year ago, where for the most part, I learned probably more at their open house than we went over in the morning. But that meeting is not why I've recused myself from their solar operation. I just wanted to make that clear, and that's all I have.
Okay, back to public comment. Is there anybody who would like to provide public comment?
Excuse me, can Commissioner Christopher clarify, did he say he recused himself because he had that meeting?
I specifically said, for the reason that your question is asked, that is absolutely not why I recused myself from that. I had one meeting with them and it has absolutely nothing to do with recusing myself.
Okay, thank you. Can you please explain why you recused yourself from Carriager project?
I already have. Thank you, ma'am.
Tracy is unmuted.
Hello.
Thank
yes,
you.
please. Hello, I'm Tracy McCune from Lyle, Washington. And I see that Jeff Rowe, Tim Nair, and David Quisnell are on this Zoom meeting. At least they were a few minutes ago when I checked. So my first question is if you could provide the acronyms that are in Jeff King's notes of what the grants are. I couldn't recognize any of those acronyms. And then my second thing, so I have been a victim of identity theft. And this is confirmed by, I just received my credit report and my name isn't even accurate. My addresses aren't accurate. None of them. It says I live in Beaverton when I've lived in Lisle for 15 years. My phone numbers aren't accurate. If I go online and Google my name that it comes up with, it shows that I'm dead, that I died. There's a death certificate for me that I died in 1995 at 35 years old. So this is quite alarming to me. Well, I have tried to get a police report since June of 2021 from our Klickitat County Sheriffs. I've spoken to Dave Quisnell in person, Tim Nair in person, Bill Hunsinger from the White Salmon Fire Department, as well as many others. And this all happened when I had ordered a 5G T-Mobile internet on June 16th of 2021 for my home. And the box was set up by my husband, David McCune, who's chief of the Lisle Fire Department. And I was not able to use the service. I couldn't log into it. I couldn't see it. And it was coming out of my bank account. So I went to T-Mobile, took the box back and said, I'd like to close the account. That's when I was told that the account didn't belong to me, that it belonged to the Klickitat County Fire Protection. Well, that's how I started talking to people and saying, look, this is my account. It's my identity. It's my, I'd like to shut it off. I'm paying for the service. I ended up canceling my automatic payments and then got sent to collections for an account I couldn't shut off. And I'm still having problems. The fire department just opened another account with my information and Klickitat County Fire Protection, no district. And I am hoping from this phone call and with all of you community people that are taxpayers, that you will help me to get a police report so that I can actually start doing something about my identity. So that is my hope today, is to get people to make a call to the county sheriff's office and find out why I can't even get a police report for identity theft. And that's all I have to say, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Ooh, that was close. All right, I will open it up for one more public comment if they have time, since we use some of your time. I'm not seeing anyone. Okay, since you guys have, would either of you like to respond to Ms. McCune?
I just quickly, the EMPG grant is the Emergency Management Performance Grant. That's a federal FEMA grant. And the SHSP grant is the State Homeland Security Program. That's a state grant.
Okay. All right. In response, Ms. Bosque, like Dan, I didn't, well, unlike my seatmates, I did not get the thing in the mail. So I'm a little worried that somebody's been stealing my mail. With regards to the Carringer project, like Commissioner Christopher, I had a meeting the morning that they had their public town hall or public listening session or whatever they considered it and called it. And that is the extent that I have. My assumption has always been that because this would go through the conditional use permit process, this would not go in front of the Board of County Commissioners. This would likely go in front of the Board of Adjustment. And then, we had the conversation last Thursday about all the different tracks it could take. But I'm under the assumption that they're likely doing a full EIS, which would be my assumption. I do not know, but if there's a full EIS, I don't know how that goes with the SEPA. Because if you did a full environmental impact statement, then you don't need, yeah. Anyways, and then with regards to Greg Wagner holding a town hall, I agree with With regards to the Bluebird Solar Project, I believe they did do an EIS. And that process, as it goes through, there will be a public meeting or taking public comment, and that would in essence be your town hall for discussion. And I would recommend that you go. In terms of with Miss Tracy, I think your best bet is to have a conversation with the sheriff and ask him what has been done. We try not to play in other people's sandboxes. We respect other elected officials' discretions of how they do their job. And we try not to get involved for the most part, unless it touches on something that's one of our departments. And I do believe, I think that's everybody, right? All right. Any further discussion from either of you two while we have 2 minutes left? And I did just see someone new stepped into the room. I got 3 minutes left. Would you like to provide any public comment?
No, I'm just here for the bid results.
Okay. We are too. All right. We got 3 minutes left. Is there anyone, last person looking to provide public comment? Not seeing any. March 1st.
Yeah, I guess that would be the other grenade with a charter county, because then there wouldn't be an elected treasurer, auditor, assessor. They would all be appointed by us in a charter county.
There's a lot of different ways to build a charter county.
They
That I
can still be
understand.
elected?
I think so, yeah.
Huh, I didn't know.
You'd have to talk to Clark or King.
Well, we're out of the
Right.
matrix anyway.
All right. It is now 1:30. We are going to move on to our bid opening for the purchase of liquid asphalt for the 2022 paving season.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Sir? Yeah, you did.
He usually does them on that end, so I will continue the tradition. Except I should pass my letter opener to him.
Mr. Chairman, it appears we have 3 respondents to our request for bids. First is Albina Asphalt, Vancouver, Washington.
Cross your fingers,
Apologize,
everybody.
it's Albina, but so no requirement for bid bonds or?
No.
I didn't see it. I just wanted to be sure before I read it. Excuse me. Total bid, $773,537.50. 773, 537.50. Next is Idaho Asphalt Supply, Hauser, Idaho.
$2 a ton.
Total bid, $1,131,242.40. 1,131,242.40. And our final is from Ergon Asphalt and Emulsion, Pasco, Washington.
Have we
Ergon.
received a bid from Ergon before? I'm not used to that name.
It used to be Western States.
Oh, there you
Oh,
go.
okay.
Because that name I am familiar with, so,
Year and a half ago, they got
Okay.
bought out.
okay.
Buried in the middle. Total bid, $987,033.30. 987,033.30. Okay, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to return these bids to Public Works for a review and a recommendation, and would note the engineer's estimate of $750,000.
I would second the motion and note that I'm actually very happy with the bids.
Me too.
Lock them in.
I have a motion and a second to return the bids to Public Works for their review, and I would third the motion that I am very happy of the bids. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Get it done.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. They must have bought ahead. Okay, we are going to move on to a public meeting to consider the final approval of short plat SPL 2021-25. In the Goldendale vicinity, applicants are Stephen and Nancy Cunningham.
Okay, short plat SPL 2021-25 is a proposal, is it 25 or 26? 25, okay, got a typo here.
Yeah,
To create two lots from parcel 041623000004/00 in the Goldendale vicinity, Clyde Story North, number 4 road area. The administrative review of the short plat has been completed. Signatures have been obtained from the road, health, and planning departments, including the treasurer's office. All conditions attached to preliminary approval have been met. If the board finds that it's in the public's interest to approve this short plat, a motion needs to be made granting final approval of SPL 2021-25 applicants Stephen and Nancy Cunningham.
all right. And I just wanted to, I was double checking to make sure it is 25, not 26.
25. yes,
Okay.
25.
25. Gentlemen, any issues?
Nope. Mr. Chairman, I move that we consider and approve final approval for short plat number SPL 2021-25 in the Goldendale vicinity for Stephen and Nancy Cunningham.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Any discussion? I thought this was pretty simple. Thank you guys for showing up. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, we are a little ahead of schedule. Hi, Lori. Is there anything we can do for you
I'm actually here for the 145,
for the pool?
just as processing the conditional use.
Got it.
I thought maybe it was a pool,
I do have a wealth of pool information,
Yeah, you have pool interest.
but I have planning interests more important.
So you're just interested.
I'm always interested in everything you do.
Okay, do we have Steve Harris and the pool board online? Or do we know if they are coming in? So just checking. I wonder if they're, do we know where they plan to come in person?
No, they plan to just zoom in.
Okay.
There you go, he's off.
Yep. He's Mike Hot, second one down.
Hey, Steve, how are you doing?
Yes. Hello, Commissioner, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Do you have video or is the rest of your team here as well?
Well, I don't believe the rest of the team has logged on yet. We did submit a PowerPoint presentation.
We have that.
The item. I think you also, that was in your packet.
Yep.
Yep.
Good. And I think if we can do a share screen here in a few moments.
It's set up to do so, you just need to click on it.
And we're early, so we have no problem waiting for the rest of your team to show up.
Let's take that as a positive omen for this discussion item, or presentation item then.
Give him a few minutes.
Hmm?
Give him a few minutes.
Yeah, that's what I said. I mean, it's not supposed to start. We might have, I mean, I would assume that we'll have a whole bunch of people sign on right around 1:45, so I'd hate to have us halfway through the presentation. Can't sign that yet. Thank you, Lee, for including in there the tribal representative B from Klickitat County, requesting the tribal representative would be from Klickitat County. Thank you for including that in there.
We're gonna be about 5 minutes. I'm gonna request a short break.
Yes, you may, sir.
Get through the obstacle course.
Called worse.
think that Steve's companions are logging in.
And there was another. I got 2 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, there have been several folks log on that are, I'm not familiar with, so I think he's got a lot of his companions on there now.
Great. Mr. Harris, does it look like everyone is now in attendance?
Well, Commissioner, it looks like we are all here.
All righty. If you would like to share your screen or work on sharing your screen, Commissioner Christopher will be here any second.
All right. How's that?
Good to meet.
There we go. Whenever you guys are ready.
All right, well, thank you. I'm going to turn the microphone over to the board commissioner or the board president. That would be Ben Briggs for the introductions and the beginning of the presentation. Ben?
Good afternoon. Did I hear right that we should go ahead and start our presentation?
Yes.
You're ready.
All right. So good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of the White Salmon Valley Metropolitan Pool, White Salmon Valley Pool Metropolitan Park District. Sorry, that's a mouthful.
He needs an acronym.
Yeah, we've been working on that. There's not an easy one. We're really grateful for the opportunity to share our progress with our pool project with the County Commission and everybody else following the meeting. Western Klickitat County has been without a pool since May of 2019 when the White Salmon City pool closed. It's time we make those memories again. We bring the pool back. So next slide, please. So today we'll have 3 individuals participating in this presentation. Myself, Benjamin Briggs, I'm president and commissioner number 3 for the Parks District. We have Steve Harris, who is a commissioner number 5 and of the Parks District, and has been an integral part of our design and build committee. And then we also have Jerry Alcock, who is our fundraising consultant from Rhoda City Philanthropy. Next slide, please, Jerry. So the White Salmon Valley Metropolitan Pool District was formed in 2018 with the sole purpose of building and operating a pool for White Salmon Valley. The formation of our district passed by 60% of votes cast. Our board currently consists of 4 commissioners. So me and Stephen Harris, and then also Lily Von Mosh and Karen Burrows, and then we'll be adding a 5th commissioner soon. I'd like to thank, or I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Klickitat County for its support up to this point. The $50,000 provided in our first year, in our first year of formation, allowed us to get this project off the ground, and it was greatly appreciated. So here on this slide, you'll see our mission statement is to build, operate, and maintain a pool facility that enhances our community's quality of life by offering a range of opportunities for play, exercise, relaxation, and education for all community members and future generations. So this mission statement is the guiding principle for what we do as a park district, including our design work, and as we move forward into construction and programming for the new facility. And I want to point out that when we talk about community in this statement, we are talking about a lot more than just the residents of Bingen and White Salmon. Nearly 5,000 of the 7,000 residents in our park district reside in unincorporated areas. And as you all understand, White Salmon is a hub of Western Klickitat County. County residents from Trout Lake to Lyle and the surrounding areas shop, do business, and socialize in the city. So our pool site is very well situated to be utilized by county residents in both districts 1 and 2. It would be a really highly visitable project that would be available to all residents and of all ages and all economic backgrounds. Here in this slide, we have a view of the pool site. I just want to give a quick kind of rundown of the facility. You'll see a loop road along the, it's on the right side. That would be the south side of the lot. The lot sits in between the preschool up at the top of the screen and then the bus barn to your left. It includes the pool house, 8-lane, 25-yard competition length lap pool. The shallow end is 4 feet and the deep end is 12 feet to incorporate a diving board. And the green space that you see in between the pool and the pool house is a space that is slated for a what's often was referred to as a warm pool or sometimes a therapy pool, and a zero entry splash pad kind of or baby pool in a later phase. And this next slide, I'll give you a little more detail on the bathhouse. We have a mechanical room, men's locker room. In the center there, you'll see the entryways, ticket counters, offices, lifeguard area, and then locker rooms down towards the right, and utilities areas. So the total estimated cost for this design comes in around 5.7 million. And I will from here turn over the conversation to Commissioner Harris.
Well, thank you, Ben. Good afternoon, commissioners, and thank you for the time this afternoon. I am a representative of the board that sits on our development team, working with our architects and engineers as we progress through the design and now the preparation of the construction plans. So where we are now, the design has been finalized through board action last August. Working with our architects and engineers, the board reviewed 6 different alternative concepts. With the size of the pool, 1 building or a second building. And through that process, we got a chance to look at the various designs, look at estimated cost estimates, and then again, came up with a final design of board action last August. So we do have that. Those earlier designs, alternatives were based on the early work through community outreach and some of the earlier studies from several years ago and going through a refinement process. So those items have been completed. And as part of that was through this, what's called this value engineering process. We needed to go to the state for approval for a GCCM approach, which is a general contractor construction manager approach, which allows us to bring on a cost estimator and contractor at the beginning of the process to help us evaluate the architect's plans, and again, try to reduce cost as much as we can. Again, looking at various materials and construction methods, whether they're stick built or whether we used a concrete block, et cetera, in order to keep the costs low, but also look at the life cycle of those various products. So that has been completed. We are currently in the process with your planning department on reviewing our conditional use permit application. We prepared a traffic study, cultural resources study, completed the SEPA checklist, and your Public Works and Planning Department has been reviewing the application. We have a tentative date with the Board of Adjustment on May 2nd to consider the conditional use permit. Like I mentioned, we're now in the construction documents phase with the project, looking at all the site preparation work, looking at the building, looking at the pool, and working on those documents. And those should be completed here within the next 3 to 4 weeks for that process. With this, the GMCM process, we'll be able to go out to bid with a fairly good idea of what the overall cost is going to be. And you'll be able to see that on a later slide. So once we're through the county permitting process, we do need to go to the Washington State Department of Health for a pool construction permit. So that'll take several weeks as well. And part of our strategy to move forward on the project is to have a separate bid or a beginning bid for the site preparation work, which would be the grading, undergrounding utilities, getting the site ready. And then once funding is secured for the remaining part of the project, then we would then have another process for the contract for the pool itself and for the buildings. And hopefully we can begin construction later this summer. As part of our funding effort, you'll see a slide later that talks about different funding sources. And one of those is the State of Washington local program. We are at an application review period now for a $1.5 million bond to the state treasurer's office. And hopefully we'll be successful with that application. And so we can use those funds for some of the site preparation work, but most of the money will be going into the actual construction of the pool and the buildings themselves. So that's where we are as far as the construction. Again, we have a tentative hearing date with the Board of Adjustment on May 2nd for the CUP. Thank you.
Great. So when I came on the scene in 2021, one of the things we completed was a fundraising feasibility study. We got a lot of feedback from the community, and that is informing our strategy. We learned some important things in that study. We learned that while some people in the community would like to see the pool covered, just as many people were happy with the seasonal pool, and they liked the tradition that that's always been the case in the community. We also learned that the community wants more regular communications. So we have drafted a communications plan that's under review by the commissioners, and that will start to go into effect as soon as it's adopted. We've recruited a substantial volunteer team. They are working on community fundraising events and outreach to potential funding sources, and also assisting on the final completion of our campaign videos that we're having put together. And then most recently, we made presentations to the City Council for White Salmon and Bingen. So this is our funding plan. Secured to date, 1.683. As Steve noted, we have a bond under review, and then we've also made requests to cities of White Salmon and Bingen. And we have another $1 million in grants planned. So we have a great start to a feasible plan to fund the project. We still have a gap that we are looking to make up. And of course, this assumes that we're successful with all sources, which we know may not be the case. So what what the table doesn't reflect is in-kind pledges. So we have some pledges of materials and service that community members have stepped forward and generously offered. The biggest risk to the fundraising effort right now really is time, because time represents cost escalation. We all know that we're in an inflationary period and the cost of everything is going up. So time is money right now. And we would like the county to consider how this project may fit with ARPA funds. And to please keep the 7,700 residents in the district in mind as you think about plans for those funds moving forward.
Sorry, I
Ben,
was on
is
mute.
this yours?
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute.
Okay.
Historically, the White Salmon City Pool was very well used by the residents of Western Klickitat County. It was a summer social hub for families and seniors from Trout Lake to Lyle and all points in between for 80 years. And right now, there's really a critical shortage of opportunities for local kids to learn to swim on really both sides of the Columbia. Before the White Salmon Pool closed, you would have been hard pressed to find a kid, or an adult for that matter, that grew up in the area and did not learn how to swim in that pool. The current generation of kids do not have the same opportunity. After the White Salmon Pool closed, the lack of pool space and swim instruction made it a lot more difficult to get instruction for kids. And that's especially true for low-income families. The White Salmon Pool provided free swim lessons to third graders as part of their PE program at Whitson. Also, Wagap's Community Youth Center provided swim lessons to its summer participants. The City of Bingen provided passes, lessons, and transportation to the city pool. All of those opportunities have disappeared with the closure of the White Salmon City Pool. That was also compounded by the COVID pandemic. Hood River essentially stopped providing swim lessons during the pandemic. The Dalles had little to no space. And our district residents are telling us that they really are having a really hard time finding lessons to get their kids into. Even the parents who can afford to take the time and the money to cross the bridge or go to the Dalles to get swim lessons for their kids. I don't really have to explain the implications of kids, going down to Bingen Marina and cooling off, or as the generation grows to becomes teens fishing along the side of the Klickitat River, or adults boating out in the Columbia. This generation needs the same opportunities to learn to swim that the past 4 generations had. The ability to swim is an essential life skill in our area. We are surrounded by water. And the Park District is committed to providing swim lessons for 4th graders, similar to the opportunity provided to the Whitson students, 3rd grade Whitson students by the White Salmon Pool. And really the key value of the Park District is inclusion. The pool we're building will provide affordable, accessible exercise for the whole community, regardless of age and income level.
So in addition to the obvious safety and health benefits of this project, it provides real economic benefit. It will provide some additional employment in the community. And I think, this example how with the pandemic, we could never have foreseen the far-reaching negative impacts on public health and our economy. But we can look forward with this project and plan for a community space that offers safe, affordable access to healthy activities, and certainly water safety for children and people of all ages.
I think this is mine. So, yeah. So commissioners, this is a timeline of beginning from January this year. We've been talking about where we are with design, some of these deadlines. For instance, looking at that April-May timeframe, gross maximum price, as I mentioned, that's where the GCCM approach comes in, part of our development team, with the cost estimator who's, again, helping us with the construction cost and the value engineering. And we talk about the bid package and the final design moving forward through June, and then with the construction contract was anticipated for June, and then construction. We recently learned that our application through Representative Corey's office as our sponsor for the legislative local community projects funding was unsuccessful this year. We had requested $1.3 million to assist with that, and that would have allowed us to move forward on this schedule. Sad to say, again, we were unsuccessful. So we're looking at the approach now, as I mentioned, to have a two-phase construction schedule. You know, one this summer with the site preparation work and having that completed, and then possibly being able to having the vertical construction, the building and the pool, et cetera, later in this year. And that kind of, again, falls in line with that local bond program application that I mentioned. There is a June sale and there's a November sale. And again, we are having discussions with the state treasurer's office that would allow us to participate in both those events, totaling 1.5 million. So, you know, we'd be asking for a portion of those dollars to help us with the site prep work. And then the remainder would go for the vertical construction. You saw on the funding slide, you know, we have approximately, I think, 1.6 million now, which would more than cover the cost of the site preparation work, which has been estimated at about $900,000. So it is a substantial cost. So if that would hold true, again, we could participate in that June bond sale. We could start construction shortly thereafter, once those funds become available, and the work within the summer. And then participating in the November sale will give us the balance of the 1.5 and allow us more time with our capital campaign and being able then to begin that work possibly, you know, towards late summer, early fall, if everything is falls into place. So that's the timeline. So thank you.
Do you want the flicker? I'll just need to pause my screen share for a moment and fire that up. Sorry, I'm just moving my, there we go. Are you able to see it now?
Yeah,
Great.
we see it, Jerry.
Great.
So yeah, this is walking through the front door, through the entry area right here. Locker rooms on the right and on the left. Then out onto the pool deck. And you're now looking west towards the large pool. We'll continue walking around, turning south, looking towards Loop Road, in between the green space and the 8-lane lap pool. And then down at the deep end with the diving board. And then back around towards the west. And then we will turn around to look back at the facility from the west end towards the east. And back up. So, you know, in concluding our state of our presentation, the White Salmon Valley has been working to replace the White Salmon City Pool for over 10 years, you know, with multiple efforts. Since the Park District's inception, 3 years ago, our commissioners and others have put in over 5,000 volunteer hours setting up the park district, working on the design and preparing for the fundraising campaign. The aim of this presentation is to show that we have a shovel-ready project that is ready for momentum. The park district has completed facility design and is turning over every stone to find the funds necessary to complete this project. A strong show of support from our local governments is absolutely critical in providing momentum as we move forward with our capital campaign. The Klickitat County Commission has this opportunity to push a highly visible project towards the realm of reality. The construction and operation of the White Salmon Valley Pool would provide a very tangible benefits for the economy, the health, safety, and social fabric of Western Klickitat County for generations to come. So this concludes our presentation, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that Commission has.
Thank you all for your presentation. I will open it up to my seatmates for questions.
I did have one, this Commissioner Christopher. You said one full-time employee, but it's going to be a seasonal pool. What does that employee do when you're not in season?
I can take this one. There are a variety of things, including programming, grant applications, many other things. We've included that in our budget. Until we actually have a facility, we don't, that plan may change. We may decide we don't need a full-time, year-round individual. But we wanted to include that in our budget. If we do.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sauter.
Thank you for the presentation. This is Commissioner Sauter. I was curious on the work that you're doing with the State Treasurer's Office, the local program, which I believe is the program we use to finance the new county services building. The 1.5 million, is that the maximum that you and they feel comfortable bonding with, that you could service with the levy proceeds? Is that why that number is that number, that it couldn't be a larger number to fill that funding gap?
I could answer this, Ben. Commissioner, $1.5 million bond payment is going to have an annual debt service of around $100,000, maybe a little more as interest rates are rising. The district receives just over $300,000 a year in tax levy revenue. And the preliminary pool operating budget that we've developed is going to need, in addition to program income and daily admissions income, we're going to need about $116,000 in tax levy revenues to cover the shortfall. So that $100,000 debt service, another $115,000 or $16,000 to cover the operating expenses of the pool, will leave the district, maybe $80,000 to $85,000 a year for all our other expenses, legal costs, et cetera. And putting also money aside for, capital reserves for additional work or phases on the pool. So it's a fairly tight budget. And we could explore some conversations with the State Treasurer's Office to increase that 1.5, but it would, again, it's a very thin margin that we're working with.
Okay, thank you.
And is that bond a 15-year or 30-year?
For real estate type bonds, we're looking at, I think it's 20 or 25 years.
Versus 20. Okay.
Do you have any other questions, Commissioner Sauter?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
Okay, I had a question. You say 5,706 individuals used the pool before it closed. Was that actual individuals, or was that the total number of attendees or admittance?
Jerry, I believe
I,
admittance, wasn't it?
yeah, I got that number from Lily, and yes.
So what do you guys have planned if the WWRP monies don't come through or you're not successful? What is the plan B right now when you already have the structural gap?
So we have families in the community that would like to see this project happen and are capable of making substantial gifts. The challenge that we're faced with is that the project has gone on for some time now, and we're sort of at a standstill. They're seeing that there is not public money coming into the project. So they're questioning, if they make a gift, will the project go forward? So it's also difficult for me to make the case to funders outside the community that this is a community priority if our locally elected officials have not sort of put their support behind it. So what we're looking for is some more public money to kick up momentum, which will allow us to go back to some of the families in the community and say, we're going to be successful and we want you to buy into the successful project.
Do you think then that the private money lenders, the philanthropic side could make up the difference if you're not successful in the competitive grant programs with WWRP?
I think we have to bring more public money in. I think none of us would disagree that that's a heavy lift philanthropically for a community of this size. But there is wealth in the community. I think the biggest challenge right now is momentum and confidence in the project.
What is the estimated yearly income off the pool? I know you're 150 in the hole, but what are your projected revenues currently?
Off the preliminary budget, we're projecting just over 100,000 in annual income. That would be for daily admissions, swim lessons, different programs. It's comparable to, I think, what the city pool was doing before they closed. And also, reviewing some of the other neighborhood pools, area pools, and just looking at the scale, the magnitude. So again, it's a very conservative budget, that 100,000. And we're looking at expenses of just over 200,000, and then including, again, we want to try to begin setting aside about 20,000 a year in reserve. So that's where we end up with that shortfall on an annual basis.
So I'll ask one of the tough questions, and that is that if you cannot come up with the difference in funding, have you guys looked into a plan B where the district would just pay for the residents of White Salmon to use the Hood River Pool for their swim lessons and costs to make up that difference while you look for more public funding? It seems like, for many of these people with, the 7,000 individuals, many of them are going to have to drive to this pool no matter what. And driving to Hood River is still an option. And considering it's a year-round pool, many of them will choose to do their swim lessons in the winter when they're not mountain biking and doing all the other fun things of the spring and summer. Have you guys looked at that as an option and looked at that in terms of what would the cost be if you went that direction?
This has been, I'll attempt an answer on that. So we have data from, the city of Bingen, city of White Salmon, and actually ourselves offered to pay for pool passes for the residents of our district. The cities offered it for their residents, and then we offered for the unincorporated. So residents had free passes, and we were able to get back the data from the Hood River Pool to see the utilization of those, and it was really a fraction of the passes that were given were actually used. It's just really not, we don't really see that people actually do cross the river to use the pool nearly as much as they did this pool, even with free passes.
Was that during COVID time though?
Let's see, I believe that was offered, I think it was the city's offered it, I believe 3 summers ago. And then also the last 2 summers. So yeah, mostly, I mean, most of our existence has been during COVID. So yeah, I would say most of it is during COVID. Yes.
And the district, if you remember, Ben, the district, we provided or paid for those passes this last summer.
Right, but there was also no swim lessons going on, correct? Is what you said earlier?
Yeah, at the Hood River Pool, because of staffing issues and just safety, they were not offering swim lessons at the Hood River Pool, correct? Last summer.
So is your plan this summer to offer the same for anyone within the district?
I won't speak for the commission at this point. We haven't had those conversations, but I would assume that we probably would do that. Yeah.
And how much did you guys spend when you were doing that the last couple of summers?
I think we set aside $5,000.
Okay.
Small number. This is Commissioner Christopher. I wrote in my little cheat sheet here that there was an ARPA fund ask. So I just wanted to inform you of the county's ARPA funds. The commissioners have essentially set those aside to replace our county financial software. Unless the board changes its views on that, I don't know that there are any ARPA funds available. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Would you like to tell them what we used the last set for? And this is, just so this is Commissioner Anderson, just so we're also clear, the ARPA funds from the first tranche were used to offset the losses of income from the 2020. So that's where the first tranche went. And so the second one is going to be used primarily for the county software, which touches on every single department. And that's what we have currently set there.
So yeah, our guesstimate on that is there may be some, chump change at the end of it once we get through with that, but there's not any big dollars.
Commissioner Sauter, any questions?
No.
All right. Any final thoughts, Commissioner Christopher?
No.
All right.
I am curious of one thing. When you guys did your mock-up and your planning for this project, did you kind of make up an option A and option B based on funding, something like a $2.5 million project and then a $4.5 million? Or did you just kind of shoot for what you were hoping for and it ended up being 4.5? Did you have any other available options out there?
Well, there were 6 alternatives, Commissioner, that were considered by the board. In some of the early discussions, there was a second building that would have housed a community room and perhaps another office space or something like that. And we thought that there was an income potential there to rent out that space. But just that second building, added, probably another $1 million to the project. And we started to look at all sorts of, potential revenue sources, producing income. And well, you know how it is. You just kind of start to add a little more and add a little more. And then we really started to stop and say, let's go back to the mission statement of the district. And the mission is, to build and operate a pool, not to provide this or not to provide that. And that was one of the reasons why we had to defer the therapy pool, wading pool to the second phase, The cost of just that pool was over $600,000. Although there was a great community interest to have a therapy pool and to have a splash pad, et cetera, it was just, again, it was just another $600,000+ to add to this budget. And so that got eliminated from this phase.
That sounds like smart thinking on your guys' part. I know we're dealing with the same thing you deal with. Everybody thinks this is a great thing and that's a great thing and invest here and do that, and then you got to find the money to do it. So you end up starting small and phasing your way into your grand plan. And I figured that was the case when I saw the grass there where the splash pad or wading pool would end up being.
Yeah,
So-
I'd like to add to Steve's comments. So in our conversations with consultants and with the park district managers and directors in the area, when you're looking at a project like that, you're looking at, a pool has a life cycle of 50, 60 years. The white salmon pool was used for 80 years. So you're really looking down the road. So when we looked at our cost estimates, of maybe doing a 6-lane shallow pool or, a lot of different other things, the difference in cost was not enough to offset the value that you lost because once you dig a hole for a 6-lane pool, right, you're never going to get your 8-lane pool. If you dig a hole for a pool without a deep end and no diving board, you're never going to be able to do that again. So we felt that in looking at those long-term costs, of a project like this, that there was more value in getting a more permanent, the more permanent structures in, and then adding on as we can. So that was how that phase design
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ms. Anderson, do you remember what year the Goldendale pool was built?
The bond was passed in '99. The pool actually opened in 2003.
And do you know what the total cost was?
1.5 million. 6 lanes, and it's a shallow pool, 3.5 to 5.5 feet deep. We do have a wading pool, 0 to 1.5.
And a roof.
With that depth, you only get a low diving board, no high diving board, correct?
We actually don't have diving boards. We
At
do
all?
have starting blocks that the swim team gives you.
Right.
With appropriate training.
Right.
Okay.
And it's open all year, right?
No, we actually don't have funding to be open year round. And then we definitely ran into the COVID situation. In 2020, we weren't opened at all because we would have been limited to 10 swimmers, and that would have been economically feasible. Oh, or 10 people, that included staff. So we did open in 2021, and we had to take the dome down before we could open. And then in July, actually with the heat wave, they released all the COVID restrictions at that point on aquatic facilities because then they were considered cooling shelters. But in July, we were actually finally able to start swimming lessons again. At that point, we could actually physically touch students and help them learn to swim.
Thank you.
And we actually did not put up the dome back in fall because COVID numbers were so high, and we weren't sure what would happen in spring. So we did not put up the dome. We're hoping to open in May, weather permitting.
So that way you could change from an indoor facility to an outdoor facility.
Thank you for the update.
Oh, you're welcome.
And I would like to say thank you to Stephen and Ben and our consultant for the very informative PowerPoint presentation. I think we will probably continue to have conversations about what the county can do to help support this project moving forward.
As we progress through the budget.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
All right. Sharon, I am very sorry. You are up and we are running behind schedule, so that's what I'm
Oh,
apologizing.
we are.
And can you email this to me as well?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to provide, I haven't provided an update for a while. And one of the areas though that I wanted to request some assistance with in relates to personnel issues. So in my department, case management, which is Title 19 Medicaid case management, as well as other state case management programs, which is family caregiver support case management, and a federal demonstration grant project, which is Medicaid alternative care and tailored supports for older adults. So we have on my staff is typically a full-time and a part-time case manager. And then I actually still do duties as a case management supervisor over those positions. And we have several contracts through the Area Agency on Aging and Disabilities of Southwest Washington to provide for those services. We have a mix of a couple of the case management duties are a cost reimbursement with a limit. And then the Title 19 Medicaid case management is a unit rate that we receive based on a monthly caseload amount. And so that is about $240,000 in revenue on just the Title 19 case management, which again helps fund that full-time, part-time case manager and time of mine for case management supervision. So the challenge I ran into is with having my part-time case manager has been out on medical leave. It was originally supposed to be 3 weeks. It has been 12, well, coming up on 13 weeks. So there's an additional FMLA leave time because we have, the Washington state paid leave that's available and then the federal leave. So that adds up to about potentially 6 months of leave time. And so I am covering, and my full-time case manager is doing additional work as well. But I cannot continue at that rate because I can't get everything done that I need to do for my position as director. And so because I don't know if the person is going to be out through at least April, likely through, if it's the full additional 12 weeks, that would be the early part of June that they would be out till. And so I'm averaging, instead of averaging about, let's see, in terms of case management time, because we have about, we range between about 107 and 115 individuals on that program. But there are cycles with crises, it's people. And so normally I might spend maybe 20 hours a month in case, and I'm spending easily that per week in trying to maintain that in terms of that service. So my request, and I had spoken with HR department about it as well, was to look at being able to hire a temporary casual case manager position. It's part-time, or do a contracted person that would be able to fill in that position to help with that coverage in an interim basis.
I would assume since the employee you have now is out on FMLA, that you have a cost savings there that would be applied to the temporary casual or however you go there. That this person is budgeted in your budget and you're
Right.
not paying their salary right now, or are you?
No, so we're not paying their salary, but they do get benefits, because it is that's a position that had been grandfathered in. It's not normally available in that part-time position, but they do have
So
full
what,
benefits, so they receive benefits during that, but I have sufficient funds in the budget to provide, in terms of what our revenue that we would be receiving, to be able to staff that.
do you have what your estimated cost to budget? If we do either direction, temporary casual or whatever, what do you figure that's gonna cost?
So, and then I have wiggle room in that. I mean, in terms of that case management revenue, typically I have an additional, 60,000 that covers, again, my, part of my salary is covered in that anyway, because I have specific duties I have to do for that. Right now, of course, it's actually more expensive in that eating with my time, although I guess it's not expensive in that I'm exempt and I gotta just work 12 hours to get it done. But in terms of looking at, I didn't run numbers specifically right now, what the average rate of pay, if I look at wages and benefits, and I divide that out with the case management staff that I have, because they're long-term staff too. So the hourly rate is at about $54 an hour and that's wages and benefits annualized in terms of what at their rate.
Okay.
And so, in terms of, are you asking what I would be
That
looking?
does that, and then my last question that's pertinent is, are you hoping and assuming that you'll be able to cover this with what you already have budgeted, or do you feel you're gonna need to come back for a supplemental to cover this?
No, I would be able to cover it with my existing funds.
That's what I thought, just double
Yeah,
checking the
I'm not
answer.
asking for a supplement.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Commissioner Sutter.
Do you think you can find somebody?
And that's where.
Do you have somebody in mind? Is
I
it
do.
possible?
So I had reached out to our former case manager that worked many years with our agency to just see if that was something that she might be, because she would be trained.
Right.
There's obviously other hoops that have to go through, because I have to do fingerprint background check. I mean, there's a lot within this, because I can't just take an existing
Been
person
retired for a
either.
while. She could have been leading a crazy life, and so she might
yeah,
not
so-
get through the background check now.
So I actually just spoke with her at lunch today. She had called and she is finishing out a position currently and would have availability to do an interim and would be interested in just an interim position as well.
Okay.
So I do have somebody she'd obviously, because it's been a number of years, there's updates to that, but she is somebody who's very sharp and would be easily brought up to speed. I mean, that is the drawback of bringing in anybody that doesn't have, there's a lot involved, and that's where it's been this, weighing, can I really bring somebody on board temporarily? But I had to do this a 6 month coverage just the year before last for same situation, a different surgery type of thing that was going to be 6 weeks, ended up being 6 months. And I can't do it. I can't do what's needed in terms of grants and the work that I need to do as director. And I'm not willing to work 80 hours every single week. I'm willing to work over 40, but I'm not willing to do 80 hours ongoing for 6 months.
Or do we want you to?
So, because the training necessary, you say in here that you can't train somebody. And if they're only out until the end of April, I mean, the onboarding and the training of somebody, how long does that usually take for this position?
Well, and what I'm saying is I don't anticipate this person's going to be back at
Right.
the end of
But
April.
if this person isn't, if it falls through and this person isn't able,
Uh-huh.
then, where are we at then?
Yeah, I mean, it would be looking at seeing if I could, in terms of advertise and find potentially somebody that's available. I guess the other option would be for me to talk with ADSWA, their agency on aging, and out of, Vancouver, and see if they have any resource that might be able to help on an interim basis as well.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
then that would be, yeah.
I'm just worried about the timing because it's already the 22nd of March, and if your person comes back at the end of April, then you don't have a whole lot of time there. Now, if it's a contract position that you can do and she's willing to step in and take it, that'd be helpful. But like going through the full advertising process, how long's that going to take? That's my only issue. And if she's out till June, then, that would be a better, wiser, investment. But we don't know when your individual's
Saying
coming back.
contract employee would be quicker, faster, and maybe better than hiring temporary casual and having to go through the notices and that whole thing. Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm just throwing that out there. Is that a possibility that would make more sense? And I'm looking at my HR department and not giving me a nod or anything.
The only other piece that I would have to talk with ADSWA about is under that particular, a contract person, I think, rather than them being our employee, because of it would be subcontracting the work.
Yeah.
Because initially
And
I
then
thought
you-
a contract employee, that would make sense, especially if there's, and it would be quicker and that too, but we can't subcontract that work per se in our agreement. There's a whole piece because it's federal and state funding. And there's just a lot of different pieces with that. And I think we have to have it as an employee without going through even more
Contract
hoops
change, yeah.
to.
Do we know, or can we ask? Like, I can see, I support whatever you need to do to be able to get the work done and not work 80 hours a week. That's, long term, you just can't do that. Is there any way, because if the current employee that's out, we don't know, you suspect they're not, to me, if they're not coming back till June, whatever, then yeah, go, if you can get, I would be supportive of if you can go get the former employee that is basically trained, that would just need updated, because they could come right up to speed and they could be, helping out, taking on case management pretty quickly.
Right, and they
would come up to speed. But if they come up to speed and the existing employee comes back in 3 weeks, is that enough of a time to make it even worth going through that process or not? And I suspect we can't ask the employee.
Right, well, and I would have had the discussion in December if I thought, but it's always.
Exactly,
it's
3
always,
weeks.
I'm gonna be out.
And I'm gonna be out.
And it
Yeah,
keeps
then
getting extended and then.
Don't have anybody.
Yeah, right,
And then that
exactly.
I did this just a couple of years ago and it was in, a full 6 months and that too. And I can't.
I'm of the matter that it's in your budget.
Do it.
My opinion is work with HR, figure out what's the best way to go about it as quickly as works. And I trust your judgment.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I'd say
Okay,
plan for the worst, hope for the best.
okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Reevaluate when needed.
Okay, the next one, I just wanted to update on our volunteer grant that we had received. We were finally able to get a volunteer coordinator on board and started in February, and that's Isaiah Garcia. So he has been working and developing more of the detail things that we need for that volunteer connection program, and is already, doing some outreach and connections to help generate some interest, and we'll be working on developing volunteers as well as clients that need the service. But I wanted to bring up, we have National Volunteer Recognition Week is coming up next month. It's the 17th through the 23rd. And with our existing volunteers, that have been helping in our nutrition, Meals on Wheels delivery program, grocery deliveries, helping in the kitchens, our drivers, taking people to appointments and that. We want to make sure and take some time to recognize them and show our appreciation for them, because obviously, my department are very dependent on volunteers to carry out activities. So we're looking to try and plan some different things to do that week to acknowledge those volunteers. But on that Friday, we want to do like a luncheon and would like to be able, we're going to do it at the Pioneer Center because we have our big commercial kitchen that I and staff can use to make a really nice meal for them and significant other that they would bring. But I was hoping that the board or members of the board or somebody from the board might be able to come also. It would be that Friday, the 22nd of April is what we're gearing towards. So if to be able to come and, you know, just say a few words, acknowledge how much we appreciate volunteer support in the community and how much it helps and provide some good words there. So additionally, I would have our senior advisory board, our volunteers as well. So would want to invite them to participate. We do currently have 2 openings on advisory board. I did have a person in White Salmon that contacted me, said they were going to submit an application because they were very interested in joining the advisory board. I'm not sure if they've submitted one yet. Okay, so, but so far just one person that's indicated an interest right now. I did have something in the newsletter about that, and that's where that person had seen it as well and contacted me. And so I, you know, kind of described the process, and they're going to plan to come to our next advisory board meeting, which is in White Salmon on the 1st of April, so at the Pioneer Center. So we are just still trying to get the word out that we do have openings on the advisory board. And if you have anybody that you can convince
Anybody else?
that would like to commit to that, we would greatly appreciate that.
I say, once you get down to the bottom of this, where the meal program opens back up again, then I can go chew in people's ear and try to get them.
Yeah,
motivated.
yeah, we can definitely do outside. So our plan at the moment is, you know, I don't want to curse it because every time we have a plan, things kind of shift, but is May. We're gearing up towards reopening our congregate meals. So we have very excited, you know, people. We're very excited about that too. And so we will also we are already gearing up to resume some of the other activities that have been going on traditionally. So we have a yoga class in White Salmon. They're going to start meeting again mid-April at the Pioneer Center. We have a strong people exercise class. We have Alzheimer's support group that'll be meeting here monthly. So we'll be gearing up to doing more of those things. And then again, partnering because the Goldendale Senior Center has its own nonprofit board and operations, and they just have new board members. I've been talking with them about some of the different things that we'll be looking at being available again. So we're definitely excited about getting some more things up and going and having that interaction, and fingers crossed that we don't suddenly have a shift in that again. So, and then the other item that I wanted to bring up was just transportation. In relation to transportation, we've run into a bit of a block with the grant, the capital grant we have in conjunction with the Port of Klickitat for a bus shelter at the stop there. The Bingen Point bus shelter is what it was referred to as. The costs of everything, of course, went up substantially from when we applied for the grant. So now we have to reevaluate. There isn't sufficient money in what was awarded, but there could potentially be some. I'm talking with WASDOT about that. But the other piece is that the price of the shelters went up to the point that we would have to actually put it out for bid, or I am trying to find out if they have any new contracts through, when we do contracts through the Washington contract system, we can piggyback on those, which is typically the preferred manner with the smaller purchase that we have, is seeing if there's another way So that's just put that into a bit more difficult issue. So we are working on how we're going to proceed with that. But who knew bus shelters had to cost over $10,000 a piece? Everything is more money.
So yeah, remind me, so the cost of the shelter is now exceeding $10,000?
Yeah.
For one bus shelter.
Yeah, not even like a big extravagant one, but it, you know, it has to have the wheelchair spot, you know, kind of, I mean, they're pretty, it has to be sturdy enough to withhold the winds,
The
and the
wind,
gorge too,
right.
and that too, but it's not like a huge shelter or anything, but yeah,
The
I mean, and
estimated
that's,
cost?
so it was over 10,000. I don't know off
Stop
the top of my
looking when
head
it was
right now.
over
It just, as
10,000.
soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, that's, I gotta go through a whole different avenue. So, and that was.
That's when you say, well,
they-
I didn't order 3 of them. I was only ordering 1.
And that was the one, actually, it's through.
Isn't the
Oregon Correctional
corrections?
Enterprises, you know, they do some good ones, but usually, you know, it's been the more affordable.
Well, it seems like their labor costs are pretty fixed. So-
Apparently, it's.
They gotta charge other jurisdictions. for
I
use now.
guess.
So we will, you know, and it gives, you know, because there is a desire, you know, I know, City of White Salmon, you know, they're interested in being able to look at, you know, bus shelters for stops and things as our public transportation system has been funded and going, and
Yeah,
but
have you asked the
it's-
Lions Club? They make them.
yeah, so we are looking at some other ways that we can get creative, because the, you know, the port themselves, they were going to do, you know, the construction for the prepping of the site and installation of it, everything, you know, we're going to provide that piece. I mean, because it's
Have we
it's
reached out to
nothing
any
simple.
of the businesses down there in situ or whatever to see if they wanna pitch in or?
Not yet, no. We're just trying to even phantom how much ultimately it's going to be, and then what we
And
can.
how we can justify that?
Yeah.
That's a crazy number.
So I wouldn't necessarily give up WashDOT. I mean, quite often there's like leftover, you know, dust.
Well, and there has
and they would be
been-
like, well, okay, here's an
There's
extra
been
whatever.
additional resources before, and so, yeah, and more of it is trying to figure out now exactly what it is going to cost, so we get the right ask. And so that is in process, but this is also the year that is the grant year for our consolidated grant funding, you know, that is currently where and has funded our dial-a-ride and currently funds our fixed route transportation service. So I will be, you know, talking with you in terms of ongoing support of that for another. Right now, our funding goes through June 30th of 2023. Our dial-a-ride service was able to be funded 4 years out from the last application process. Fixed route was 2. The hope is that we can do 4 for both of these in the next time. And so the other piece that we will have a need for is capital in terms of vehicle replacement, because, you know, we're running them, especially the fixed routes. Those are getting a lot of mileage on them. And so I will be putting together that, and we'll be talking with you about that as well, to see what you're good with me going forward with in the application for. And then this is also a year that as part of, you know, through RTC, and that we have to do an update to the Human Service Transportation Plan. And that involves public meeting and feedback regarding that. And we've typically, you know, had a meeting, you know, like in Goldendale and White Salmon. So we'll be, and other times we've done Dallasport as well. So we'll be working with RTC to kind of coordinate that as things are opening up now, and seeing how best to meet that need. And that's to get, you know, public feedback on the existing transportation services available and what people see as the needs or gaps in service, and updating those process. But a lot of those continue to be the same kind of things that, you know, with more money and more, you know, that we need. more support and service. And sometimes that may be, though, also looking at whether there's some other connecting routes. I know one of the requests that we get a lot for is that connection between, because our routes are going White Salmon Binge into Hood River and Goldendale to the Dow, and Wishram and Dowsport, and then it's that gap in between White Salmon and Dowsport that can get all the folks Lyle and up towards Goldendale. So that connecting piece is one that's come up quite a bit. So, and I think that's it for my update.
Can you
Oh.
get us an updated number of your ridership on your fixed route services?
Oh, you want to know current ridership
Yeah.
numbers? Okay.
Yeah,
You want
how
me
it's
to just
going, how it's
email you?
trending
Okay.
now that we're coming out of COVID? Are you seeing an uptick?
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions for Director Carter?
I don't.
I actually did forget one other item that I was going to talk about was sharing like frozen meal with Skamania County. So we, through the pandemic and the process, we had to kind of change gears a number of different times to try and find the frozen meals for our home delivered meals, Meals on Wheels program, because we weren't able to get them from our main supplier, Golden Cuisine. That kind of went by the wayside. We couldn't get access to those. We were doing the correctional industries.
Yummy.
But those are not great. And then we were also having supply issues there, especially they would have different shutdowns with COVID. And that's where actually Skamania County gets their supply from. Plus we have to meet in Vancouver to pick them up and then haul them. They wouldn't deliver to Goldendale or White Salmon. So I was able, through our membership with Meals on Wheels America, to get connected through a company that does drop ship them. But we had to order like a pallet at a time, which is about 980 meals, which is a good number with the numbers we were going through with the pandemic. But as we're opening up and people aren't and it will shift coming out of the emergency order too, where people have to qualify for home delivered meals by being homebound, so a number of people that were getting them because of the pandemic won't need them or qualify for them. So we'll be going through fewer, and that takes up like our whole freezer in, White Salmon. And we bring up, between the freezers here and White Salmon. So we won't be going through as many. And then Skamania County's been running into an issue with correctional industries of not getting delivery in that too. So I'd been talking with Sophie, the director there, about whether or not they would want to maybe just go in on when we purchase a because we have to order the whole pallet. We can't do a smaller amount because of the shipping, that we would split a pallet and just charge them, for the meals. And if that's okay with doing that, because we can't go through them as fast. Yeah, and so we would invoice them the actual, cost of that, because they would pay that portion. We would calculate out the shipping divided over the total quantity of meals. And so they're interested in purchasing a couple hundred of them from us right now, and then splitting future orders, which actually works in our interest as well. And so I just want to make sure that's okay.
As long as legal's okay with it, and we don't have to make up some fancy contract or something to do it.
Yeah, I think we should be able to just invoice that. We would be able to show that amount and invoice them. We could provide, that backup. And then their nutrition funding and our nutrition funding, our contracts are through ADSWA. And so I think
anybody willing to take those meals off your hands, you should be okay with.
Oh, we're not using correctional industries. No, we are using a different.
Maybe the problem is
company
they're
called
busy
Trio.
building bus shelters, not
Well,
doing
that's
food
Oregon.
service.
This
You
is
could build bus
Washington.
shelters out of the frozen meals.
A lot more money in
They're all
bus
special-
shelters.
Don't mind my seatmates.
And then the other, I did have a question about, I guess, the wage study, too. I know that the county, I mean, we talked about budget challenges, but I have some concerns regarding folks in my lower categories, like I may be losing, another transportation coordinator again, because Skamania County is paying a higher rate right out the bat for that same position. And my person's been here 7 years, and so how do I,
It's still moving, it's still under review. It was supposed to be first quarter, but now it looks to be a little farther than that. So
okay.
I'm waiting patiently as well. Have the same concerns.
So we may end up spending more money with the turnover and, okay. But I thought I would check and see if there was any possibility in terms of that.
Cattle
changing,
prodding it faster.
because to keep somebody, okay.
Yeah, I would say, I guess I can, that's an HR question. I don't know whether they're willing, but they can look at where that person falls on the bell curve of comparables and at least give you an idea whether there's any future movement there or not, maybe.
Yeah, I think the
Up to the-
challenge I know that I've had in my department is with some of the positions is the analysis that's done. I've had a few of them that I've done a request for review. It's been a number of years, but they weren't
Well, we
gauged
now
any different,
include
and so,
some of our local counties where we didn't before, so.
Okay.
That's making a difference. But yes, there's a bell curve and I have a big worry about the people on that side of the bell curve. Not so much the people on the other side, but the people on that side and hopefully soon. There was a change in management of the company we were using, so it slowed things down.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else for Director Carter?
Okay.
No? Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you. I have this.
Okay. Anybody want to go with the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to approve the consent agenda, all 8 items.
I would second that
So
motion.
the assessor can get back to work.
There's a motion and a second
And
to
Casey.
approve the consent agenda with all 8 items. All those in favor signify by saying
No
aye.
discussion?
Do you want to discuss any of them
I might,
now?
just because she's here. No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries.
So-
And let the record show Commissioner Christopher is on one today.
You're thinking that could be anywhere up to 12,000, not necessarily 12,000. Okay.
And typically it's only been,
2 to 4 to 6 to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But we are upgrading our assessment software and.
That always goes super smooth, so you should save money.
Except for there's not 12,000 in my budget because of the cut several years ago that I've continued to maintain. So I use them to their fullest potential.
You don't have money.
I probably won't have enough money.
Yeah.
But I haven't in the past.
Yeah.
And we did reduce the one from 12,000 from 10 or 12 down to 6. They're both at 6 now. I just came over because typically I would have presented this to you before it went on the consent agenda, but that's not what happened. So I wanted to make sure I was here in case you guys had any questions.
And you were. That's why I was hoping for discussion before the vote, but I figured that's what it was, so I'm good.
But when things are simple and smooth,
That's the goal. That's why it's called a consent agenda.
Sometimes.
you guys have a good day.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we pay estimate number 23 to Kirby Nagelhout Construction Company in the amount of $49,999.69, which excludes retainage in the amount of $2,399.98 and includes sales tax in the amount of $3,599.98 for the total payment amount of $49,199.68 for the Klickitat County Services Building Project Contract Number C03120.
Second the motion.
There is a motion and a second to pay estimate 23 to Kirby Nagelhout Construction Company. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Do you want to do that one too?
Oh. Pay the bills. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the accounts payable warrants in the amount of $304,871.45 and the payroll benefit warrants in the amount of $0 for the date ending March 21st, 2022.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to pay the bills. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, thank you very much. We have for new business, Klickitat County in front of me. Fire District 3 has requested consideration by the board to waiver of the building permit fee, which is necessary to rebuild fire station due to a snow load collapse in January 2022. Anybody would like to begin discussion on this? Do we have Lynn on the phone as well? Oh, wow, that's something. I would, any interested in you gentlemen's opinions, discussion?
I would just comment, I mean, historically, we have granted these fee waivers for any of the fire districts as they've had construction projects. That said, it would be, that is generally based on the assumption that there is financial need. These are volunteer organizations, they have limited funds. I'm not trying to throw rocks at anybody, but I think it is time to have a conversation at least when we have some districts, and I'm not pointing out Fire District 3 specifically, but some of these districts have, very healthy levies, they have very healthy fund balances, they have resources, and should the board at least start having a discussion about differentiating between, if we're doing this for need, then, is there some demonstration of need that we have to go through that process before we just waive these fees? Because when we waive the fees, we're paying them, basically, is what we're doing. And it's possible that some of these districts may have more fiscal liquid resources than we do, and so why are we necessarily doing this? I know that has been to my knowledge, we've never said no, at least since I've been here on any of these. It's just, we've had them before on a couple of them where we kind of like, but how do we single this one out and not that one? But I just raise that for the discussion. I'm okay with it either way.
I can see that. I can also see that we just kind of set a new way of doing things a week ago as far as planning. So I think you might find you waive this fee, they're going to ask for a waiver of the planning fee as well. And then whatever we do going forward is going to set a precedent. So I'm open for discussion. Obviously pro-fire. But again, whether we have the budget to subsidize everybody in the world or not, I think is a discussion, either that we have now or later. And like Dave said, how do you, make them come forward and present their books to you for audit? Or do you just take their word, or how do you do that? So I guess that kind of discussion, we want to have that before we even take up this case, have that discussion.
So I did have a conversation with Chief Long, because this is when their fire station collapsed, and they ran a very large, bond levy to fix the fire station, and they fixed the first half of the fire station, and then the back half just collapsed. And so they are getting reimbursed for rebuilding that because they had insurance.
I was going to say, they might be.
And so my first question to Chief Long was, is your building permit fee part of the reimbursement for the insurance? And can you do that? And I never heard an answer. I don't know if he is on. I don't think he's online. And I did let him know that, we kind of have had this discussion about a new way of doing things. And so if they have a large multi-million-dollar levy that they were working on this building and then the collapse, and now they're getting, you're gonna have to get a new fire truck and
the amount that they're giving them should cover the rebuilding of it. So the question comes down to the need. Now, if you're Glenwood and
Right.
you have literally $50 in the bank,
Klickitat, which we'll be hearing from shortly, that doesn't have any bunker gear.
that has a little bit different of a need than somebody that ran a multi-million-dollar levy and is getting insurance off of this. So I did let him know that, we did just say no,
And for the record for the public, they're asking for a total fee waiver in the amount of $3,007.17.
which was our cost of processing that
Processing that.
$3,000 for that repair. I don't know.
But how do we, I guess I would say audit their books going forward, or make them come sit before us where we can ask these questions.
Well, that's pretty easy. All we have to say is we might sign it if you come and present the case.
Yeah. Present your hardship. Not just general, not signing off on everything generally rubber stamping anymore. If you have a certifiable hardship, come present your hardship and be ready to answer the questions on why you have a hardship.
And I know they want to get building on this because they have to pay it in order to start the construction. And so now they're up between that rock and a hard place. We could maybe try to get a hold of Chief Long and have him call in here in a few minutes. I can you have his number? Yep.
I don't know. I'm kind of thinking it must not be a horrible hardship if they're not already on.
Well, he asked me if we'd seen it last week.
And, no, we're not taking public comment at this time.
Okay, so we are going to table that for right now. Until she gets back to us. We also have here the American Indian Health Commission from Washington State, the request for the designation of the member. Did everybody have a chance to look at that? Is everybody consenting that I can sign this? All right, just wanted to double check.
Yes. For the record, yes.
I don't think it needs a motion
No,
since
I
we already did that last week.
For the record,
Okay, we will move into board pending until Lee gets back.
I did have a question. Sharon was talking about the volunteer. It'd be nice if somebody would show up to the lunch that they're having on the 22nd at the Pioneer Center. I would also, after our near miss at the Klickitat mill site with too many commissioners showing up, I would say if we're going to do that, we need to plan for that, notice that, and make sure it's out there.
So I have a meeting of the finance committee
Yes, you
early
do.
in the morning. If I get done at 11, I can make it back for that. But I don't know if one of you gentlemen would like to go.
She said the 22nd.
22nd of April. Not today.
Not, yep. Yeah. I'm good. I can go as well. I think it's great
But
to
I
show
think it would be nice
appreciation.
if we all
Yeah.
showed.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to.
Right. If we're gonna do that, we gotta
volunteer you
notice it. We gotta notice
Or
it.
not notice.
While
it.
we have time to notice it.
So that's why I brought this up. So,
Okay.
okay, then it sounds like we should tell Miss Lee over here. Can you please notice Sharon's luncheon that she has here? Notice it to the newspaper so that more than one commissioner can attend.
We're required to do that, correct? If more than one of us.
I was advised by legal that it needs to be noticed in the newspapers.
Got it. That is correct.
What's that?
If we're go.
So if we're there and if any of us are speaking at all, is that what triggers that? Or if we're just two of us are in the room together?
There, you know, and there's a discussion about something that fairly characterizes county.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're going, it's an appreciation dinner for the volunteers and we're
volunteers
just,
in the county.
somebody's got to say, you know, great job. We really appreciate you.
I don't think, I mean, that's more like going to a benefit dinner or something.
Right.
As opposed to what was going on down.
Right. And Glenn, or in Klickitat, that was a different, right. There was a, right.
So benefit dinner, this kind of thing, no.
As long as the purpose isn't, you know, an action, which would be a discussion.
Okay.
Right.
Well, that's
So,
good
you're good.
clarification. Perfect.
All
That
right.
answers that one.
Okay, you got something else?
Nope. Got a chief on there.
Chief Long, good to see you, sir.
Commissioners, thank you for having me. I'm
Thank
sorry to address the occasion.
Thank you for calling in. We are looking here at your waiver of the building permit fee. You didn't go and pay that already, did you?
Well, in our, I don't believe it's been paid yet, no. In our haste, not our haste, our planning, trying to make sure we comply and get that done, our general contractor, Hale Construction, agreed graciously to get that in our hot little hands, and then just pass through that expense to us at no cost inflation. Because while the drawings and such were approved by your office in the county, we wanted to make sure that we didn't get sideways, and so we had the permit. So the long answer to a short question, I have to call them to verify.
Okay, I remember when you and I talked on the phone, my question was, will the insurance cover the building permit cost?
We anticipate the answer to that is yes, it's part of the project. Our issue is any dollar going out the door, we're just mindful of. And when this happened, I didn't forecast that it would trigger the requirement of another permit, which it does, and it does make sense. And so it was just an unanticipated cost.
But you will be reimbursed by the insurance for the building permit.
Our assumption is yes, because it's part of bringing the building back up to code.
And so,
and when I put I'm sorry to interrupt, when I put the request into you folks via Mochi and it went to Lee for your agenda, those questions weren't really answered in my mind at the time, and we were just hurriedly trying to get that done.
I understand.
And then based on our conversation, I got the sentiment that there may not be an option from the board, which I understand. Although I don't know details, if it's still possible, that would be wonderful. You know, that, whatever the percentage is, it was 3,000 and change. That still goes towards our claim, and unfortunately it always involves subrogation, which I don't anticipate us having the issue with that, but it is what it is.
Questions, thoughts? Discussion?
Them being reimbursed kind of makes it difficult for me.
Yeah, Chief Long, this is Dave Sauter.
Commissioner.
I think with the, we have, we were discussing this earlier, and I did raise the issue that, we have historically, I'm not aware of us ever turning down a request for a building permit waiver from, any fire district in the county, because we always feel, these are volunteer organizations. It's actually in your ask, and have limited resources. But I think that's one of the things that we have to kind of start taking a look at is for districts that are, better funded, that have resources. Because when we waive these, then, we do have the cost of that permit is, we're not making any money on it. It's staff time, staff costs. And so that is basically just a shift from the local fire district to the county taxpayers. And I think in the past, we have always granted those, but I think now we're really going to start looking at each one of these that comes in and kind of look at kind of a needs-based, which is difficult. And I am certainly sympathetic with, the fire. This wasn't your choice that you're going to have this expense, but I think it's difficult where it's going to get reimbursed for us. It would be hard for me to support granting the waiver. So that'll be a first for me, but.
Right. This is Commissioner Christopher. I would agree with what Commissioner Sauter said, but I would go farther, saying that this shift, I don't think is just going to be, at least in my mind, aimed at fire district, but aimed at all levying districts that have their own way of raising revenues. There's just, the money's not at the county anymore to subsidize. So I would agree with Mr. Sauter.
If I may I make a note? So reference the two previous permit applications we put in. I recognize the extensive amount of staff time that it took for those on our behalf, and we appreciate that. I would like to apologize in hindsight now. Perhaps I reacted just a little too soon and out of panic, and do recognize that we won't be reimbursed, that it is through an insurance claim. And for that, I think I would support a denial of the request as well. So I see where the board is leaning towards, and I appreciate that. I do appreciate your time in considering it. I think it turned out to be more of a timing issue on our behalf, as they're actively actually today cutting concrete to begin the rebuild on the floors. And so I think for this waiver, I conclude, as I talked with Commissioner Anderson, that the sentiment is probably going to be in favor of a denial with our request, and I'm okay with that. It's an insurance claim, and honestly, I think the total ticket is not to exceed $416,000. A lot of that has to do with prevailing wage law, and $3,000 isn't going to change the world. So that's what I meant.
Well, thank you very much, Wes, for your understanding.
worry.
Good luck on your rebuild. And I hope you guys are able to find a new fire engine as well. And you guys are back on your feet as soon as possible.
But we are working on that. One of the goals of our bond was a fire engine for the voters, and that has not been lost. That's still in the plan. And so we're working through that. We'll be holding open houses soon for the public to come in and see what they've invested in. But we just kind of got to move in. I'm the mover. Our staff is the mover. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time. And
please make sure to send us an invite for your open house as well.
I will do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
So I'd assume if we're not taking any action, we don't need to take any action.
That is correct.
He rescinded his. So did you pull that out of there?
Yeah.
somewhere?
Oh, sorry. I'll pull it.
Don't inadvertently.
I'm the only one that was going to sign it anyways.
Oh, we'll set that up there.
Okay. Further board pending? Anything?
No, we're past time, so.
We are past time. Okay. Prosecutor. Oh.
Nothing. No. It's
Prosecutor
just like-
Cannell, do we have anything for open session?
At some point, we probably should have a more engaged conversation about the difference between releasing debt and waiving fees.
Okay.
The Board of Commissioners has the power to release debt if not prejudicial to the county. I don't know if that means waiving fees up front.
That's a good question, because they have for like Rodeo Bible Club, they've covered half the fees.
Right.
And so, yes.
Because a waiver means the debt's not even collected or attempted to be collected.
So it would be
Whereas
nice.
when the term says release debt, that's an accrued amount that's owed to the county. So there's obviously not a lot of litigation on this, but it's, the statute does enumerate a power of the commissioners to release debt if not prejudicial to the county, and there's no personal interest involved. Does that mean that you can preemptory waive fees that would apply to everyone else?
Right, is that just a timing issue that we don't do this before it? We make them have the debt, then you can do it after?
Demonstrate some reason why they can't pay the debt, I would think, right? And if the code is consistent with most of the comparable counties, the work wouldn't be processed until the debt is collected.
Right, because they have to pay before we issue the
start work.
SEPA or whatever it is. Yeah.
Right.
So are you gonna look into that a little more, or?
There's not a whole lot of guidance on it. It's just that the board needs to, be cognizant of the fact that it could be a potential issue.
Well, we would love any of your direction on that, because we don't want to put ourselves in a hot seat,
yeah.
because this has been done for what? As long as you've
Ever.
ever remember?
Well, I mean, if
It
it's.
doesn't mean it's right.
Doesn't mean
I
it's
recognize
right, and when it's always, the answer is always yes, it's to every, taxing district. It's if the board's moving to where, it's selective imposition of those fees or selective waiver of the fees, it becomes much more problematic.
I could believe that. Somebody would have a problem.
Because then it, it could eventually devolve into whoever the political favorites are.
Right,
that
you get yours
give-
waived and you
right.
don't.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so asking for an executive to discuss pending litigation.
Where's my? That is I.
I'm assuming not about fee waivers, the granting of.
Yeah. Okay, how long?
Oh, probably 10 minutes to start.
Okay.
We probably should start with 15.
Okay, we'll go with 15. So the board will be entering into executive session in accordance with RCW 4230-1101I for discussion on pending litigation. Issues of a general nature will of course be discussed in open session, and we will be for beginning at 15 minutes. So what we are going to do is we are going to close down the Zoom. The only thing we have when we come back is to adjourn the meeting. I would like to thank everyone for being a part of your local political process and your local government in action. Thank you all and have a great day. And for the record, we will not be having a workshop on Thursday. Thank you and have a great day.